reaction show where Skye and Steve talk about the winners and the losers from the most recent Star Wars TV or movie show. I can't find the jingles on the computer, so this is the jingle. Da 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 da. You got me now, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Wampa Wampa.
Welcome to Kivecast 103.
103. It's our fourth or fifth vintage winners and losers.
Yes.
So what this means is we watch the most recent Star Wars movie, or in the last episode we did was actually about the Star Wars TV show.
Yeah.
And we analyze it in terms of how does it affect the popularity or potential value of a vintage Star Wars toy.
Yes. Yeah, that's the overall framework, but as I'm sure will happen this time, we'll meander a bit.
Yes, it also serves as a kind of sorry, I'm taking off my sweater right now. Do you get hot when you record, Steve?
It happens, yeah.
I get like 1,000 degrees. I get swamp butt and everything. It's just nasty. Once I have to unplug my headphones for a second here. This is why we're the most professional show in the world, Steve. Now, we're recording in late December. I'm going to be releasing this for January.
Yeah, right.
And then we're going to be recording in January and releasing in February.
Yeah.
Because Steve is going to need a little paternity leave from this show.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, we just set up the crib in the Eagle Rock studio today. So,
wow.
Yeah. The little one is coming and soon.
Yeah, so our 10th anniversary show is going to be in February. We might solicit something from people, like testimonials. Is that stupid, Steve? I hate listening to testimonials. Don't you? I don't know. Do I really want to hear people tell us that we have a good show?
Knowing you, I don't know. I feel like that might help you a little.
What? Are you implying I suffer from some sort of insecurity? Well, anyways, so let's get to the Rise of Skywalker, Steve.
Yeah. It's happened.
It's happened. This is my idea. I wanted to sort of talk for like less than a minute up front, and then go through our 10 losers and winners, and use that as a way to really unveil what we think.
Yeah, I think that's a good format for this. I think it works.
So I'm briefly going to say that throughout this, Steve, we're going to talk about checking boxes, if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Mm-hmm. I'm going to discuss the concept of being hit in the feels and ask you if you are children or goddamn adults. We're probably going to touch on the fact that Star Wars fans are profoundly stupid and completely cinematically illiterate. They're totally ungrateful for what they have gotten, what they get, and what they will get. And I don't understand why people who hate movies love Star Wars. Because there's other things that you can love that aren't movies. Because Star Wars is the greatest triumph of cinema, right?
Oh, man.
Well, what are you going to do?
Right.
D.W. Griffith, Steve? Oh, actually, I like Birth of a Nation more. No, Steve, I don't accept that. What are you, Lenny Rife installer, Steve? I don't accept it, okay?
No.
This is better than Birth of a Nation. Star Wars is the greatest triumph of cinema. Anyways, so I might get into that.
Yeah, I could. Yeah, I figured as much.
And if you're still listening to the show, then that's good. The funny thing is that the number one winner was almost a loser. The number 6 loser was almost in the top 5 winners. This whole thing is completely confusing.
It's very, very conflicted. You were.
I am, because the thing I would say is that this movie is, if anything, the final complete victory for the new characters.
Yeah,
and everything
I'd agree with that.
Everything that was great about this movie was the new characters. Everything that was bad about this movie was the old characters. And that's basically been the case for most of the trilogy.
Yeah, generally I'd say that's probably true.
And so as I made this list, and it is my list, Steve hasn't seen it. Steve has his own list, which he's going to integrate at times.
Yes. Yeah.
Which maybe we could do another episode where you lead with yours. But
Yeah, mine are more general columns
Right.
that I like to cross-reference what you come up with. So because sometimes they're like clearly aligned and other times they aren't. So that's what's fun about it.
so part of the trouble of this is that the future of Star Wars is more interesting than reliving its past.
Right.
And I don't think that's what most Star Wars fans wanted. And this will tie into the question of feels, emotion. Are we feeling human emotion or are we feeling nostalgic emotion?
Yeah.
And those things are so separate, Steve. The amount of emotional maturity and frankly, emotional intelligence you need to be able to differentiate between nostalgic emotion and human emotion is completely lost on most Star Wars fans, which is why Star Wars fans, including everyone listening to this, is a complete idiot. What do you think, Steve?
Well, let's get into it.
Okay. All right. Let's get into it. I've got a lot more to say, Steve.
Yes. Yeah. All right. So where are we starting here?
I want to start simple. The number 10 loser. Sometimes they're linked and sometimes they're not.
Yeah.
The number 10 loser is all original trilogy non-gonk droids.
Okay, so you got your R5D4,
Yep.
your Death Star droid,
Yep.
EV-99, all those.
EV-88, all of those.
Right.
And then the number 10 winner is Gonk. Now, I said Gonk was a loser in Mandalorian, and it's very confusing because most of the winners of Mandalorian are losers in this new trilogy.
Yes.
Which
yeah.
kind of goes back to this general theory that I'm saying, which is the past of Star Wars is not as interesting as its future. But I'm just giving up and saying, fine. Gonk is in everything. That's the new, I got a bad feeling about this. That's the new Wilhelm scream. Like you remember when the Wilhelm scream was funny and exciting?
Yeah, that lasted for a while. Yeah.
A good 2 decades until I finally was like, all right, I heard it. Yeah. No, I heard it.
Well, okay. So with Gonk though, so you said he's your number 10 winner, right? Now,
Yes.
I don't remember seeing him much. Is it because you don't see him that it's a winner? He's a winner for you?
No, he's just in the background there.
Okay.
He's in the background in one of the scenes. How many times have you seen it, Steve?
Okay, so I just got back from my 5th time.
Oh, wow.
Believe it or not. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, but I feel like with the Gonk, I don't remember. Maybe I think it's because he's not right in your face. That's why I'd agree that he's a winner.
Wow. So
yeah.
wait, if you've seen it 5 times, so then wait, should we say briefly before we go on to number 9 our overall takes in like less than a minute? Because I don't even know what your take is on the movie.
Well,
Or should we just weave it in? We'll keep weaving it in, Steve.
Let's weave it in. I think it'll kind of naturally, like, speak for itself.
That'll be the mystery. Oh, I will do a little aside here.
Okay.
My children are too old to play with Lego, but I bought them Darth Vader's castle anyway.
Christmas gift.
The Darth Vader castle Lego is so awesome, and that got them to get out all their old Lego sets and have them all set up. And that is like, it's another thing about film criticism, which is different than what most Star Wars fans do. Because what most Star Wars fans do is they say what I would have done. And that presumes a level of competence that you just don't have. You don't have the ability to get people to the point that you're saying what they would do. It's like you're listening to a violin solo, and you go, "Well, I wouldn't hit that note. That sounds out of tune." It's like, yeah, but you wouldn't have got to the rest of the. Anyways, there's very few like super tiny nitpicks, and the fact that the first planet was Mustafar.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you could have just seen the castle just for 1 second.
Oh man, yeah.
I would have. That's the one thing where I'm like, do you know what I would have done? Because very clearly they did it for a reason, right? I mean, they put it on Mustafar, and they could have shown it. And it's not like this movie is drenched in restraint in terms of callbacks. But yeah, I think that's my number one missed opportunity.
Little nitpick missed opportunity. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I'd agree with that.
So anyways, I think that cements the Gonk as just the only consistent thing in all Star Wars media always.
It's true. Yeah.
It's gonna be this. Now, my number 9 winner is an overlap from The Mandalorian, Steve.
Okay.
And that's Land of the Jawas.
Okay, yeah,
So,
yeah.
so the Land of the Jawas playset. First of all, it's just one of my favorite playsets, and the combination of it being in the Mandalorian, and then the combination of it being the way that you know that you're on Tatooine, right? Like
Right.
at the
Yeah,
very
yeah, yeah.
end, we don't need to say spoilers, right?
Nah, no, no, no.
Screw it. I mean, yeah, it's spoilers.
It's been out. It's been out for 2 weeks. We're
Yeah.
we're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I might edit myself out asking that question. But like just that scene of the sandcrawler, just that kind of tableau. I think that that's a real question of what can we purchase in the vintage line that indicates Tatooine-ness.
Right. Yeah, yeah. And
And,
I love too that I guess the way that they did that shot was very much in the old fashioned way. That's a scaled model, like forced perspective, and those are just local kids playing the Jawas. So I love
Really?
that it was set up. There's no CGI in that shot in terms of like the sand crawl and all that. It was just done with a little bit of trickery,
Wow,
which
behind the Steve, huh?
yeah, hey, I gotta get it in there when I can. There's not much for this, but that was just one thing.
How do you know that, Steve?
So I went to a screening that had some of the visual effects people there, and
Oh
they
my
talked
God.
about that.
These rich.
Hey,
Oh my, Steve. So
I
first
don't
you
wanna-
get to go to the premiere, right?
yeah,
And I'm not
Yeah.
saying that inviting your pregnant wife instead of me was insensitive, but it would have been better for the show, Steve, if you'd invited me. But that's okay.
I know.
And then you went to a showing with the VFX people.
Yeah,
Was that at the Academy?
And no, it was at the like a Disney Studio lot theater thing, and it was for the Visual Effects Society. So it was the two visual effects leads and J.J. Abrams as well, which some of the things he said tie into my some of my I don't know, angst about this whole thing. So I don't know if we can get into that later. But no, the visual effects thing is where I heard about the Sandcrawler, and that they actually built one of those and brought it out there to wherever they filmed the desert stuff in this. They just use it as Tatooine. But yeah, it was awesome to hear that.
Well, make sure you have notes from that, Steve, because that's more interesting than whatever random aggravating things I'm going to be saying.
I think you'll appreciate it. I'm waiting for the right time. It'll come up. I know it will.
Yeah, see, I had this whole page of notes, and I'm having trouble buying the conceit of our own like I think, because I have so many things to say about the interaction between Last Jedi and this movie that I think most people haven't. Like, I've listened to probably 20 or 30 hours of different people talking about this movie, like from loving it to hating it, mostly hating it. So like, I think what I have to say about it is new, but I'm just gonna wait, Steve. I'm gonna go by your rules.
It's gonna work its way in. All right. So where are we at now?
So that was the number 9 winner. It was Land of the Jawas. And then my number 9 loser is something that just cannot catch a break in the films, and that is the dewback. Why doesn't the dewback indicate, even in The Mandalorian, they got the blorgs instead of dewbacks, right?
Well, there was one pretty iconic dewback moment. Yeah, on Tatooine.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wait, that's right. That was a dewback. That wasn't a blorg. Or was that a blorg?
No, that was a dewback. I mean, they like to a T recreated that publicity shot of the stormtrooper on the dewback, which that's cool.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's true. So they win a little bit in Mandalorian.
But you win a little bit, but in this one, yeah, you get some weird, I don't know what that thing was at the end of the movie.
So you had the storms coming and a woman, right?
Yes. Oh man.
If that's not her, I will never watch Star Wars again. I will swear off. I will quit the show.
Guy, just for your own well-being, just believe that it is.
That is Storm's coming in. She doesn't age. She's always been there. She is the counterbalance to Sidious.
You know? Yeah, right. Okay, now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah. Or she's that woman from Jakku, and she just moved planets, but her life still sucks.
Right.
Oh. So
yeah. I like the Storm's Coming Annie woman. Yeah. She just she lives in a desert, so she aged quickly.
So she has some kind of weird animal there.
Right.
That's not a dewback. And it just reminded me that, like, when you need to indicate Tatooine, you gotta have the Jawas, but you don't need dewbacks.
Right. Well, and at least it wasn't one of those farting things that that Qui-Gon rides in the
Oh, the
prequels.
Kadu? Yeah, I know
No,
what they are.
I don't know, man. I that was a I'm all right with it being something different there, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, because you're mentioning the prequels, and this is something
I
I need
am.
to shoehorn at some point.
I knew it was going to happen. Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. If you take these three movies, right? J.J. Abrams is somebody who knows and understands and loves the original trilogy, right?
Right. Right.
And Rian Johnson is an artist who is capable of making something as good as the original trilogy, right?
Right.
Like, I don't think, at least I don't think J.J. Abrams could create anything of that ambition, right? Whereas Rian Johnson's like a real artist, and like him or hate him, he's actually making new things. So, like, you have someone who can be Lucas, and you have someone who likes Lucas's early work, but nobody who really loves the prequels was involved in this whole trilogy.
Right.
And I think it really suffers because some of the themes are brought up, and there are so many themes from the prequels, not just the Kadu, Steve. Mostly the Kadu and the Opie fish. I would have liked an extended scene. Whoopee, whoopee. I want all that back. But like the amount of complexity that was abandoned and just I don't know. So like even but okay. But we can talk about that later. I mean, I'll get more into
that's
that.
another.
But
That's a broader thing, and I got some thoughts on that as well.
Because J.J. Abrams very proudly says that, like, oh, I like the prequels, but I didn't really like. He's like one of those people, like one of those people who like just doesn't get it, and like, okay, you don't get it, but I think they need. So, anyways,
Yeah.
I'm not talking about like, oh, I'd like to redo this scene. If I could have redone it, I'm not going to say the whole they needed some kind of vision. No, I don't. That's bullcrap.
Okay, yeah.
I'm so glad these movies
this
are
is
not
the time.
Marvel movies.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
what's up?
you know what? This is getting right into
Okay, good.
what you're talking about. So
We're at number 9, baby.
Yeah, we're at number 9, guys. It's gonna be one of those. But hey, man, it's the end of the Skywalker story, right? So we gotta just let it all out.
And Motley Crue is never touring again. Okay.
Never again.
Till Nikki Sixx runs out of heroin. Man, it's the one last time, buddies. Okay.
But talking about the prequels and the original trilogy and this, I mean, I think all Star Wars is really, I think it's best enjoyed in broad strokes. So I'll say I enjoy the prequels in very broad strokes. But with the two other trilogies, I think it's interesting that the one is clearly intended to be inspired by the other, like by design, but then also I think by happenstance it kind of happened, just because of the way they were made. And I find that's for me, I cannot separate the context of how they're made and the situations that come up with the movies themselves. And I think that's what bothers me about the whole grand design argument. I mean, it's a myth. Like it's just not the case. And things don't, I mean, like you're saying, it's not Marvel. And I'm actually really glad that it's not. I don't know. That to me, that kind of meandering, like, oh my God, what are we going to do now? Kind of storytelling pressure is very Star Wars to me. And I appreciate that.
That's where the second Death Star came from.
Right. Yeah.
Right? The whole second Death Star came about because it was like, well, I didn't want to destroy the Death Star. I mean, the first movie is supposed to be 3 movies, but then it's 1 movie, so I'll just have to,
and Lucas, he says, like, in those period interviews, it's like Return of the Jedi is my chance to remake Star Wars better. He says that outright. Yeah. I'm like, okay, you just have to accept that. And sure, yeah, the prequels had a little bit more structure, and I think that's probably their strongest point. But I don't. This whole thing about these sequels needing to have a grand design in the way that I think people kind of, inappropriately attribute to the original movies. It just I don't know. I don't buy it. It doesn't sit right with me.
Yes.
But anyway.
And again, I guarantee you, in 20 years, nobody is going to talk about how brilliantly Captain America 2 fit in to the 10 film whatever. Like it's just it's boring. It's interesting right now, but it's not fundamentally interesting filmmaking. It's a feat. It's an accomplishment.
Yeah, no,
but it's not really. Okay, I'm gonna sound like Scorsese, but it's not really the point of art, right? The point of art isn't to make a whole bunch of nerds go, "That was successfully accomplished,"
Yeah, I don't
What are
know.
we, children? I'm sorry. Okay. All right. So
Okay, all right.
we'll get back to it. But
Yes.
yeah, I think
That'll come back.
we'll come back to that theme more. I'm very much in line with you on that. Just that there isn't always a plan. A plan doesn't make it better. A movie can be bad because it's bad, not because it needs to have some kind of overarching plan. Like that's only a new thing that just happened. Right?
Yeah,
Like
it's
Superman
very much
2 is better
today.
than Superman 1, not because Richard Donner was sitting there and like probably coked up on 5 different kinds of I guess coke, sitting there and trying to think about like, okay, so the best. I don't know anything about Richard Donner. Was he a cokehead?
I don't know.
Should
I
we
don't know,
call
man.
Ron? He might know. No, okay, we'll
He
keep
might.
him
He
off.
might.
But you know what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
strength of that movie wasn't that he had some brilliant. It's just he made a good. He
No.
made a good Superman movie. So
Yeah. No, I think the two of us are very much on the same page on that. So that's reassuring.
yes. Well, I mean, I just watched the Red Letter Media thing.
I can't see you're soaking it all in. I'm like staying away from it all, and it's actually really, really helping me psychologically. So
Yeah, well, that's the number one thing that we're going to get to. Is the hardest thing about this movie is The Last Jedi. And the reason that it's hard is because everything that anybody says about this movie's relationship to Last Jedi makes me angry.
yep.
People who
Yeah.
love Last Jedi, people who hate it, everybody who has an opinion about this, including everybody listening, Steve, is an idiot. What do you think?
Well, that's probably the third or fourth time we've made that claim.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
think
starting.
so.
The case is building.
It's
So
10 years, Steve. 10 years we've been on the show. And the fact that we have anyone listening is proof that everyone who's listening, Steve, is a complete idiot. Your thoughts?
yeah. All right. Maybe we should get back to your list here.
So number 8 is very connected.
Okay.
The number 8 winner is my favorite and perhaps the only gratuitous cameo that I liked.
Okay.
You want to make a guess?
I don't know. I mean, there's quite a few gratuitous cameos, so
Yes. It's Wicket.
I don't know. Okay.
And then the loser is the Ewoks in general.
Okay. All right. When you put them together, I can subscribe to that. Okay.
Because I wish that Abrams had the courage to put the Ewoks in there. I think he wanted to. I think it would have been funny. I think there would have been a lot of interesting things to do with, like, if the Death Star crashed on the Ewok planet or whatever.
Right.
That in combination with him staying away from porgs is like, dude, just because there was cute stuff doesn't mean it's bad. Like,
Yeah.
Dio's cool. Dio's cute, right?
Yeah. I don't see the thing with me. I'm okay with. I kind of agree with you. It would have been interesting if there was some way to kind of make them a little more engaged with what was going on. But that ending, it just felt so Return of the Jedi Special Edition to me, and that's like one of those things where I'm never going to be able to get past that.
That's a good
So
point.
You know,
it
when
really
when
is like the special edition.
you get those 3 shots back to back to back with the Ewoks, Cloud City, the Ewoks, and then Jakku. Which who cares about Jakku? It's like it is so special edition, and that I have to like just.
And that's
like,
the thing that the special edition added planets all over the world celebrating at the end of the Death Star.
Yeah.
And so in a way, you want the movie to end with Yub Nub.
you kind of do,
But
and
instead,
it almost did.
The movie ends with do 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 do. That horrible Enya John Williams song. John Williams, we're coming for you soon. By the way, speaking of what I thought was a bad cameo, because I don't want John Williams.
Oh man,
Get him out of the movie. That's not the kind of we're not some kind of look there's Stan Lee thing. This is Star Wars, damn it. This isn't Marvel. Get him out. Get him out. Get him out.
I think that's going to be maybe the one thing we disagree on, but we can get into it.
Yes, we'll get in. And then so I think, but having Wicket there,
yeah,
there was somebody in the front row who jumped up and did like a fist pump in the air, and my kids were there, and I was just really happy. And I don't care if I'm stupid, and I'm calling myself stupid. Everybody who is speaking on this podcast, including myself, is stupid. Steve, what do you think? That was very enjoyable just to me, because
Yeah.
even if I didn't really make sense, and I agree with your complaint, but I do wish the Ewoks were in there.
Yeah, but okay, yeah. So you're pairing them as kind of a wicket winner, Ewoks and general loser. I think I'm in line with that. Yeah.
And so speaking of cuteness, this was kind of going back to dewbacks, and just a general problem that we've voiced often about this series. Now, the number one problem that we say, of course, who's the number one villain of the sequel trilogy, Steve?
Well, I mean, it's got to be the fans.
No.
I know.
Yes.
But I don't know. You kind of got the. It's kind of up in the air, you know.
Okay. Well, so I say it's Neil Scanlon.
Oh, okay. So we're getting to that part.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
he's the scourge of your Star Wars existence these days.
well, because I hate his creature design. I think it's boring.
Yeah, you're not into it.
I'm not into it. But let's give the man some credit on this episode, Steve. This is Neil Scanlon's best work. There are two characters in this movie that one of them is overhyped and the other is completely underhyped.
Okay.
Obviously, Babu Freak is the greatest thing ever.
He's great. Yeah.
He is. Yeah. When I saw him in the trailer, I'm like, this is garbage. But the way he's acted, the way that he feels, it must be some kind of puppet, Steve. I don't know. Maybe you know more.
It's got to be some little animatronic puppet. Yeah.
But the thing that like Star Wars can do when it gives you mysteries that you don't like, it's not like a mystery box. Like, who is this guy? What's his story? Where'd he come from?
Right.
Like, you're just like, what's this guy all about? That's great. Like, that is awesome. And he's hilarious. He's my wife's favorite part. Like, we've now gone 4 times, and my wife's gone with me 3 of those times. And she's like, I'm only here to watch him say, droid memory go black, black, black. Like, and the design does what I finally want him to do, which is just make something interesting, make something not bland. There's another character that I don't love, the win the war Bulio guy.
Oh, the horned guy.
The horned guy. But like, he has a profile, so I'm actually all in favor of him. Like, he has a silhouette, he has some interest. But the other thing, Steve, the other character that I love, and I don't know if you've done this. I mean, you've seen the movie more than I have, but who is the analogous person? Who's the mirror of Babu Freak?
Oh, the weird chimp guy?
Yes, the person who I call Cyber Chimp.
Okay, so, that works. Let's go with Cyber Chimp.
Yes, so
if he was made into a vintage figure, he would be Cyber Chimp.
He would be like, Cyber Chimp.
Yeah.
Cyber Chimp is like just as cool as Babu Freak. But it's because, like, what the hell's going on? Like,
that is a what the hell is going on type
happening. So like, I was hanging around with my kids and their friends. We were coming back from the IMAX showing, and we were just like imagining this whole world where everything was about Cyber Chimp. Like, Cyber Chimp built all those spaceships by himself.
Right.
In the unknown void. Like, Cyber Chimp can do anything.
He is the grand architect of the Sith fleet. It's Cyber Chimp.
But I just love that there's these two characters who are aliens that Neil Scanlon did an amazing job with, that I want to know more about, that have that hammerhead walrus man feel to me, where I'm like, what's going on there? How does that work?
Very bizarre.
As opposed to just another Eloasti,
blob.
Just kind of blob. I would almost put that slug thing in there. I have no opinion about the slug thing. Actually, I like the slug thing because it's like, you neither took a swing nor did you miss. Basically, they fouled on a bunt for strike one.
That's it. Yeah.
So it's like not really high stakes. Like, oh, that didn't.
Yeah.
That bunt. Maybe you'll have to swing on the next one.
The only thing I don't know. This is very much not vintage related, but maybe this is gonna open up a huge can of slugs. But that would have been an awesome moment for Rose to just do something right on that very beginning scene. You're a mechanic, do something on the ship, even if it's not a major thing. But the slug, I mean, I can get people's argument. They're like, really, like Claude?
Yeah. But
anyway,
that speaks to it. Like, okay, so I do want to get into the Rose thing, but
I think
the slug thing, I think, speaks of a certain amount of like lightness that J.J. Abrams managed to have, even though this movie was so ponderous. In all of his interviews, he's like, how am I going to do all 9 movies? It's like, dude, you're not ending 9 movies.
Yeah.
There are 6 Star Wars movies, and you had nothing to do with any of them. You're making something. If everyone would just come to my way, Steve, everyone would be a lot less upset. Because I don't care how good these movies are. There are 6 Star Wars movies, and then these other ones are. You know what I mean? It's like.
Yeah.
It's like the meat that you are used to eating is extinct, and you're just eating something that is like it. You know. Anyways. But as far as the Rose thing goes, I do like Rose. I love Rose as a character. But I was okay with her being minimized because, like, I wish it had been done better. But
it's not so much the quantity, it's the quality. I don't know if that makes sense. You know, there's some things like that, you know.
So it is exactly the same thing, in my opinion, as what happened to Jar Jar in Episode 2.
Oh my God! Well, you know.
So, but this is why, right?
Yeah.
So George Lucas said, "I'm gonna try and put something really funny for kids in here," and then the backlash was so great that he just said, "Okay, he's just basically not going to be there," and it's basically the same amount of screen time for him as there was for Rose.
Right. Right.
And for Rose, it was like, I'm going to try and do something. I'm going to try to address class in Star Wars. And I was like, oh, no. Nope, we don't want to talk about class. If you talk about class, everyone's going to lose their mind. And they just backpedaled. But I'm actually okay because I don't think Star Wars should be about class. But I do like that there has been class in Star Wars.
Yeah. I mean, at least, you know, they didn't have her do some crazy... you know, voting for the emperor in the Senate thing, you know, right. that was clearly a, I don't know. I have thoughts about that, but that's for another day.
But there's a lot of interesting, just sort of, there's a lot of work done to have interesting background characters that don't do anything.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
Like having Charlie from Lost was like he was fine. He was like a totally fine background character.
Right. Yeah.
And he could have been someone else, but yeah.
Well, yeah, in the original trilogy, it would have just been some random British guy, you know, right. But now they're bringing in recognizable faces, the people that they are friends with or whatnot. You get it. Like, you just kind of have to go in saying, yeah, that's what's going to happen in these new Star Wars movies. So anyway, all right.
Okay, Steve, I'm going to do a very simple winner for number 7 winner.
All right, okay.
And that is the X-Wing and TIE Fighter.
Okay, yeah.
Just because we finally have just a normal TIE Fighter, the one that Kylo takes.
Right.
So this is the thing. Another thing that I like about the movie. People complain about it moving really fast.
Right.
But it moves so fast. It's so incomprehensible on some level that it's almost art in its own way. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
It is so uncompromisingly fast. It just goes boom, 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 you know. So he could have done a whole scene of Kylo going through the wreckage of the Death Star and finding the TIE Fighter and moving it out.
Right.
Or he could do what he did, which is way more interesting, which is you have to do the math in your head and imagine, you know, the wet, weird, puppy-faced Kylo sitting there after having this amazing moment, which we'll get to.
Yes.
It's like, well, I need a ship. God damn it.
That was pretty good. That's good.
Should have hopped on the back. And then he's just like, you know, looking around, like trying to find a TIE Fighter.
Right. This movie does force you to fill in many gaps in that way.
Right. And like the big gap that we'll get to later, which is, why them? Wow, so the Emperor's here, huh? And then I included Luke's X-Wing in there mainly just because obviously they changed the design. And it's like, I almost put the Stormtroopers as a loser because like the only way that the old armor exists is like in a tomb. Yeah. But I thought the X-Wing, actually seeing Luke's X-Wing there, having it be Red 5.
That was one of those things where, like, for whatever reason, the callback to Red 5 and Rogue One kind of felt dumb, but where in this way it just had so much more weight to it. I don't know where you land on that, but
no, that's just it. Like a lot of this stuff is personal taste, and I think as I've spent most of the episode objectively calling everybody idiots. But so much of what like Wicked is stupid or Wicked is smart in this movie is really just like just real personal preference.
It is.
You know,
Yeah.
I felt the same way you did. Like I thought the Red 5 thing, I thought part of the reason why the Red 5 thing worked was that they just said it. They didn't
Yeah.
say it
Right.
and then look up to the sky and then smile. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And it does kind of make sense, but that leads in to my number 7 loser,
Okay.
which is going to be unexpected and going to lead into by far my biggest problem with this movie.
Okay.
My number 7 loser is Yoda.
Mm.
Do you know why?
Well, no.
Okay, so right here, are you ready? Everybody,
I'm ready. I'm ready.
I want you to think of the theme that is Yoda's theme. Okay, now, that's not Yoda's theme, you dipshit. Oh, I'm going to leave that swear in, because that's not Yoda's theme. Leitmotifs don't matter, Steve. That's the sound of a X-Wing coming out of the water. Steve, I don't know what happened with John Williams. I think the score was bad. Like, I listened to the song that he wrote for it. It's bad. It's like Anakin's
You don't like it,
theme.
huh?
No, I mean, Anakin's theme was not great, but it was interesting. Like, for episode 1, it had that same kind of soft rock, what the hell's going on, Muzak feel.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
the usage of his sound cues in this movie is legitimately terrible. Legitimately the worst thing in the movie by far. I will take 5,000 clods to taking what Williams did and abusing it for a cheap one-time emotion. And the biggest problem with this movie is the one-time emotion. I only really started enjoying this movie on the second viewing because I was so nervous about all of these cheap shots they were going to pull on me that I would have to live with for the rest of my life. Because every time I see this movie, Steve, I'm going to see it 50 more times in my life. I'm going to have to go, they played Yoda's theme for Luke lifting up an X-Wing. This is Luke's success. This is his triumph. This is the moment to play Luke's theme. Or, even better, have Rey do it. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, getting the TIE fighter was perfect because it was all off screen and there's no thing, you know? So, and that ties into the other low point of the movie, which is when Lando comes back and he gives his little speech and they play the Force theme. Steve, do you remember the scene in Empire Strikes Back when Darth Vader's like, "No, I'm your father," but also at the Jedi Temple, Lando was there because he was a Jedi and he had the Force. The Force theme means something, Steve.
Yeah.
There are themes in this, like the Star Wars theme, that doesn't have to mean Jedi, right?
No,
the
no.
Twin
And
Suns doesn't have to mean it. Like, why in the world are they messing with it's a stop sign that's painted green. Do you understand? That's what this is for me. Like,
I get it. So I have.
Why is no one else complaining about this, Steve?
I have a couple of. So I agree with you on some things. I disagree with you on others.
Okay.
I like the use of the X-wing thing because to me all I can think of in those two scenes is the scene with him and Yoda in The Last Jedi, and then how he is here. To me that works. What doesn't work for me?
Oh, wait a minute, Steve. You might be right.
Okay, but yeah. So what does not work for me so much is, they actually did this in the trailer. One of the trailers, they use Yoda's theme as kind of like just a general sentimental theme, almost like a bridge between other themes that are going on. And it happens in the Yub Nub scene at the end where you kind of get a montage of different, people being happy and whatnot, and you get a little bit of a Yoda, the main Yoda theme, and I'm like, that doesn't necessarily work for me. But to me, the extra thing does, because I don't know. To me, that worked really well. And
but one second though. Let me stay with you on that.
Yeah.
So you might have changed my mind.
Okay. I maybe started to change your mind.
But I guess the issue is that, and this is, I was listening to Rebel Force Radio, and the guy kept on saying,
See, Skye, I'm staying. No.
But the guy just kept on saying the pink elephant in the room. It's like, dude, you're mixing your metaphors. There's the elephant in the room, or there's a pink elephant, but there's no pink elephants in the room. But like, if the theme of Last Jedi is failure, which it is, and that's one of the great things, and Luke
Right.
learned from Yoda, that's
Yep.
great. And Luke's dialogue in this indicates that he did learn from Yoda, and we'll get to that when we talk about Luke eventually. Is he a
Yes.
winner or a loser? We'll have to see.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't think they sold it hard enough for me to pick that up. And
Okay.
and I would have actually liked to see Yoda next to Luke doing that. Like if he's doing it because Yoda taught him not to despair, that's fine. But it felt too much at the time like it was Luke is doing this thing. I mean, I also didn't like how Luke was just walking around. Like Force ghosts aren't like, hey, I want to show you something. Come on over here. Hey,
Well, Ben like is ducking trees and stuff and sitting on logs. So I don't know.
Okay.
That didn't bother me as much. I am curious. Whenever you do see it again,
yeah.
try and watch it with that context. And
Okay.
that's the other thing. Like you were saying, you don't really like the new main theme written for this movie. I actually really love it. But that just might be a thing where we just never clicks. But
Well, I also don't really hear it in the movie.
well, okay, so that's the thing. This has been the case for every one of these. The score this is what it's my ritual. Once it comes out, I listen to it kind of religiously nonstop all the time, and then whenever I see the movie again, I start trying to piece together. And like any score, it doesn't always line up. It doesn't always get used. Maybe because this movie is a little crazy. There's a lot of stuff that it just might not work musically as it does on the soundtrack. But I don't know. I've really come to like the new theme for this. It's kind of like a dual theme. But
All right, well, I'll accept that. I mean, one of my
it's-
biggest problems with Last Jedi is that the only real main theme written was for Rose.
yes, no, I
And-
completely agree.
And I liked it, but Rose wasn't important
did
enough
too.
of a character.
Right.
But in general, so then defend the Force theme being used for Lando.
That I'm with you on that. But one thing I noticed today that I initially kind of irked me, and it's this whole, and we might get to this in some other time, maybe not, but when the whole fleet of good guys shows up and they play, the Star Wars theme, I in that moment I kind of brought it all the way back to just being the Luke Skywalker theme and how all these people are showing up, not just because Lando went around broadcasting or whatnot, but it was because of Luke. So I was in that moment today, like it didn't click for me before. Before it was more nostalgia kind of annoyance, but this time I thought about it differently and it worked much better. So I don't know.
I could see that again too, but the pink elephant in the room, Steve, the 500-pound pink gorilla in the elephant, is that like because Poe had a line in which he directly said nobody cared about the battle
Yes.
at Crate.
No.
It made it clear. Like everyone's talking about how throwing the lightsaber, Luke saying that you shouldn't throw your lightsaber was a diss at Johnson. It isn't. Like that's
No,
just
it's not.
misunderstanding the movie.
No.
But Poe saying that nobody cared about Crate, that is truly undoing what Last Jedi did.
Yes, no, that is exactly one of those kind of pairs of situations where, that's right. No, and
And
going
so
back to
we're halfway through the list. I think we could talk about this more.
Okay.
So the concept that Luke catching the lightsaber and saying you should treat a weapon with respect is making fun of Rian Johnson shows that it's okay if you don't like what Rian Johnson did. But if you're sitting there like the same person from Rebel Force Radio who screamed "Suck it, Johnson" in the movie theater and played it on the show, it just shows that you don't understand what he did. So you can say you don't like it. That's fine.
That's
and
okay.
I can hear people saying
Yeah.
it. But in The Last Jedi, Luke had an arc. And the problem with people of our generation, people who idolize Luke, is they don't want him to have another arc. They want him to be done. They were okay with Han maybe having an arc. They didn't care about Leia, but they cannot accept. And like if you watch the stuff about Last Jedi a lot, Rian Johnson always refers to King Arthur. I mean, King Arthur after when he was an old man, he wasn't always great. Like these heroes that people talk about. Winston Churchill is a villain for most people in England. right? And Charles de Gaulle is a villain for many people in France,
Yeah.
even though these were the great heroes of World War II. And if it weren't for them, we'd all be speaking German and blah, blah, blah. But
Right.
like, Charles de Gaulle was a son of a bitch. And, you know, like the late 60s in France, and he was a hero, right? Like, both those things can exist. And if
Yeah.
you could make a movie, you know, do an imaginary movie about Charles de Gaulle, where after leading the resistance, yes, now, like resistance against the Nazis. Then in the late 60s, he was a total jerk, but then became good again. Well, that's fine. That's what happened with Luke. Like, he had an arc.
This is okay. So I've seen people make this just really just disingenuous argument about how, like, just stating, like, matter of fact, actually, yes, like, this is you know, giving the finger to this or that. And so getting back to the screening where I was at, where J.J. Abrams was there, like, at this point, like, he was like physically deflated and weary, which I kind of appreciated. I mean, he's just so wiped out. And
Right.
this kind of came up out of, it wasn't someone asking him about it. He just said it, you know, kind of as a rhetorical argument. It's like, that was not, you know, it's like Luke Skywalker saying he was wrong is not at all a, you know, a diss against Rian Johnson or The Last Jedi. It's like he just asked the audience, did you all see The Last Jedi? He said it in a really kind of like candid,
Right.
snarky way, which I just, it made me feel so much better about this whole situation, because it's just, but people won't believe, you know, they'll still push that, but I just, knowing that that's just not the case, and like, I don't know, it's just, it's so aggravating. So aggravating.
Because JJ made the decision to make Luke a hermit, which I
Right.
think was a good decision. And then Rian Johnson described why he was. And his reasoning wasn't even that radical, you know. It was like, you know, and then he stopped being a hermit and he saved the world again. But he saved the world through his example, not through his lightsaber, which is the same thing that Obi-Wan Kenobi did anyway. It's not like Obi-Wan Kenobi did anything. He turned off a trash compactor or whatever. He turned off the force field. That's the only thing he really did.
Yeah.
But then beyond that, he was an example.
The cleaning up the mess logic is just, it's just,
yeah.
It really, really gets on my nerves. But
which
anyway.
is really funny, because The Last Jedi is the only one of the new movies that's not a mess. Like, of all, like, Rogue One, Solo, Force Awakens. Force Awakens isn't that much of a mess, but the rest of them are pretty messy movies that are, like, they feel kind of like too many hands, too many people in the kitchen, too many plot points, trying to please too many people. Last Jedi was the only, like, really cohesive movie that made sense and had a specific perspective. And again, people could dislike it, but it wasn't a mess. It didn't leave a mess. It actually left a really good structure. And that's the thing, is that I'm fine with this movie being the way it is. And so, you know, my review is I enjoy the movie a lot, and I might even love it if I watch it more. But it will never be as good as the movie that I imagined J.J. Abrams would have made in response to Last Jedi. Because I think
that's the really hard thing.
That's
like
the hard
separating myself from that. Yeah.
Because if J.J. Abrams did what he does best with what he was given, I think that he could have made Kylo Ren a great character. Like, I think Rian Johnson was setting it up that Kylo Ren would be the big villain.
Right.
And that would have been interesting and different and new. And he was setting it up that Rey would have been nobody, and that would have been interesting and different and new. And I think he would have been setting up that the universe would be rallying behind the memory of Luke Skywalker, and that would have been interesting, different, and new. And J.J. Abrams could have put his weird touches over it all.
Right.
But he definitely did just sort of say, okay, well, I'm just going to go and do something else. And it's always going to feel disjointed. The trilogy's never going to feel cohesive. But I don't care. Like, you know, like, these aren't Star Wars movies. These are movies that are called Star Wars. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. I'll say, like, getting back to that broad strokes thing, like, the further I step back and I appreciate it more, and then I think about that just kind of meandering context of storytelling, and I'd have to let it go. Like, what the preconceived notions of what, and I have to do that for each of these. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's what it is. So,
but anyway, so that's my main issue, is I think J.J. Abrams was capable of making a better sequel to The Last Jedi. But, and I don't think he didn't do it, not because he disrespected The Last Jedi. I think he didn't have enough time. I think I think he was
it gets to the tired George Lucas in 1981, like, oh my God, this needs to end.
Yeah.
That's what I think of when I think of this movie, and it's just what it is. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get to my number 6 winner. Yeah. My winners are a lot easier than my losers. So my number 6 winner is the die-cast Star Destroyer.
Oh, yeah, good call.
This is one of my favorite items, but
yeah,
of all the returning things, it was nice to see the classic shape of the Star Destroyer. I think that's the only real way to play with the Star Destroyer.
I think so. Yeah,
in the vintage line, I think in a very similar way to the X-wing and the TIE Fighter, it's some of the most tasteful callbacks.
Yeah.
Like I think the way that the Falcon is used, every time the Falcon has been used the way it's been used since 2012, it's been regrettable. I don't think it's ever interesting. The 1 second of Lando looking in awe was 1 second too much. I just don't need it. It doesn't do anything for me.
It's a little bit, I wouldn't say it's always that way. I'd say there are plenty of times where I do kind of roll my eyes a little bit, but I don't know. I'm not quite as cynical about the Falcon as you are, and I think that's been established. But
yes,
yeah.
But anyways, so yeah. I like that. And then my number 6 loser was almost one of my top 3 winners.
Okay.
And I've been circling around him for a while. Yeah. It's Lando. And let me tell you why, Steve. When he appeared, the crowd roared. When everyone talks about it, they all say how well it was done.
You're talking about his little disguise game?
Just the whole thing of him being in the movie. How happy they are that he's in the movie.
Right. Yeah.
This is going to age so unbelievably poorly. I can't tell you how bad it is, Steve. It's just bad. He doesn't act well. It doesn't make sense that he's there. The entire time it's him looking into the camera going, "It's me. I'm back. I'm here. Hello."
Yeah.
And it's now, if he had just given the speech, if he'd just been hanging around the rebels, and he just gave that little speech to Poe, I guess that would have been fine to have, that's...
Yeah.
But you know what, though? I don't like speeches about leadership, so I wish that weren't there. And my other least favorite part was the "we're going to go to war" speech. Steve, can I just talk about that for 1 second?
Oh, you hate that part, huh?
Steve, I can't tell you how much I hate that part. You know what? I think I don't like this movie anymore.
Hey, all right, we're only halfway through.
But let me tell you, Steve, the point of Star Wars is not the glory of war. Right? I mean, what do they say in episode 4? Like, Force be with us. Let's go. Right?
Yeah.
We have to save people, so let's do this thing.
Right.
Not this, we have fought long enough for the fight to be fought to us, and we are the people who before us are the people, the parents of the galaxy, of the people that we fight for. It's the worst thing in movies, is the pre-war speech, the pre-battle speech. The William Wallace speech is garbage. All of it's garbage. It's all rote garbage. It's jingoistic, and it's not worthy of an anti-war series like Star Wars. It's really not. It completely breaks the conventions of Star Wars to have an uplifting battle scene, and these are the conventions that matter. It doesn't matter what the Force does, because the Force does anything it wants. Mm-hmm. But it does matter when you change the nature of the message to have it be, let's go to war and fight for our fathers. Jesus Christ, Steve.
Yeah. Okay. So
why did you write this?
I get your angle there. I'm curious then, what did you think of the line, these are just people?
That was great.
See, I liked a lot. It was kind of like a reverse Dunkirk moment where you have all just the people in their little tugboats coming out to help. I like that a lot. That to me speaks more to what you're talking about of the anti-war angle of Star Wars.
Right.
So that to me kind of redeemed, or just maybe softened.
You are prickly today. You're coming up with good points. You're deflating my anger.
Well, I'm always here to deflate your anger. I
No
mean, if
wonder you
I'm
get along so well with my wife. Jeez, two of you. Yeah, but anyways, getting back to Lando. So
yes,
like,
yeah. Sorry, Lando. Yeah.
that's going to be a skippable moment in the future. The Treadwell is cool, but why is he on that planet? It doesn't really
So
make sense.
I have a theory on that,
Oh boy.
and I haven't really looked into any of the all the superfluous stuff that they package and sell with the movie in terms of books and all that. But I am wondering, and you kind of touched on this, like maybe Billy D just he wasn't able to bring it, and there are some story beats where there was probably more to it initially intended, but it just wasn't going to work. And I worry about that a little, that there might have been more to, him talking about going on a Jedi hunter hunt with Luke or whatever. I feel like there was more to it. And why was he there? There was more to him that probably just either didn't have room because the movie's crazy and packed and just moving too fast, or maybe, just, performance wise, it just wasn't really working. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem that they had with Leia in the first two movies. I mean, Carrie Fisher just wasn't up to
Well,
snuff as an
I'd say with
actor.
the first movie. I think the second one I disagree, but
She's
yeah,
better, but
yeah,
she never feels like Princess Leia. She always feels like Carrie Fisher doing Princess Leia. Yeah, I don't
yeah,
mean that in a that's what she said way. Like I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
again,
I
I
feel
love
like
Carrie Fisher, but I don't think that I don't think she was a great actor at the end of her career, right?
it's a tough, yeah, it's a tough situation, and yeah,
And I don't think that Billy D. Williams did a great job. He just didn't.
yeah.
And that's not to say that he's terrible, but
No,
you
no,
know,
no.
I mean, hey, Tom Brady had a pick six today. We all get old.
Oh God. Um, but I think because of how sparingly, the two shots of him in the Falcon are really just the two in the trailer. It kind of speaks to like, oh, maybe it just wasn't working as well as they had hoped, which is sad. I mean, I love Lando, I love Billy D, but
But he didn't have any. I don't think he had any purpose in the story other than to remind you, and other than to give you, Steve, to give you the Star Wars feels.
ooh, yeah, yeah.
So this is another problem with the movie. Most of the people who say they like it because it gave them Star Wars feels. I have a what's if you ever said that, could you just reevaluate your life? Like, could you work on being an adult who's capable of understanding that art exists not to make you happy, but to if it makes you happy, it's because it engages some part of you that wants to think of something bigger than yourself, or wants to engage with your intellect, or your passion, or your compassion, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's not a box to check where you go, I see this and that makes me feel something. Hits me in the Star Wars feels. Like art is capable of so much more that you're really selling yourself short if you think that a Star Wars feel, and this goes for The Mandalorian as well. What makes The Mandalorian great is not Star Wars feels, it's that it's a well-written, well-produced, well-directed, well-acted, everything about the show is well done. So that it's not getting you in the Star Wars feels. And the Rogue One scene with Ponda Baba, with the Walrus Man is a great example.
Or
It failed.
or the droids, the droids.
Right.
Those two things.
That
Yeah.
doesn't get anybody in the feels because it's badly done. But even if it's well done, getting you in the feels, because this is my theory, is that the term Star Wars feels is exclusively in the domain of nostalgic feeling. So it's only about connection to the past. And that's not a developed emotion, right? That's not a sophisticated thought, right? I liked eating candy when I was a kid, so I like eating candy now. That's that's how we end up having really bad choice in eating, right? That's how we eat bad food. That's how we watch bad movies. That's how we don't progress as people. There are plenty of feels in this movie, very emotional, very, very moving things that go way beyond Star Wars feels. And when Luke looks at the sunset, that's not a Star Wars feel. That's a feeling. You just feel something. And it's not in your feels. It's not a Instagrammable commodity that you can purchase and sell and register as a box that you check where you go, I cried because this thing happened. Like, no, you feel it because it means something to you. Right. It's a human emotion. Cinema and art is capable of making you feel human emotions. Yeah. And Lando, being in the movie, does none of that. It hits you in the Star Wars feels. You remember how much you liked him in the other movies. Great, but he sucks in this one.
Oh man! All right, I need to. What did you say I did? I softened your anger. What do I need to start?
No, it's good.
Okay.
I met Lando. I like Lando. I met Billy D. Okay, so that was the number 6 winner.
Yes. All right.
Loser.
Loser. Right.
The number 5 loser is very simple. It's not going to get me all worked up.
Okay. Good.
Emperor's Royal Guard.
Yes. Okay. That's on my loser list as well. My loser column. Yeah.
So I don't understand the decisions that J.J. Abrams makes when he shows no restraint in many places and then shows amazing restraint here.
Insane. Yes. Yeah.
And this is following up on Rian Johnson. So like it used to be that cloaked red guys meant one thing. And in the prequel trilogy, we don't speak about it much, but they did a really good job of showing how the transformation of Senator Palpatine into the Emperor is mirrored perfectly by his guards, how they go from, blue with a puffy thing to blue to red, and then they become the Imperial Guard. Right. There are so many things in this movie that aren't the Imperial Guard. It's confusing.
Yeah, I don't know what those guys were, but because the restraint you're talking about, everything on that whole, I was fascinated by the concept of, the Sith planet and all that, but it's all so obscure, so restrained that every time I watch the movie, I am just straining to try and soak in a bit of what that's all about, because I think it could have been so much more interesting if you had just a little bit more of that infrastructure, just seeing something. And then those guards that she kind of does away with, you can't even really make out what they are. No. You can't even see them.
But they're not Imperial Guards.
They're not Imperial Guards. They're red somethings with, but that's it. You can't see them. There's just, I totally had the Royal Guards on my losers list, because
I would have liked to have seen them standing on either side of the Emperor. It would have given me the Star Wars feel.
Oh boy, Skye. Yeah. Even if, I don't know. I think we're in agreement on that.
Although I think maybe if he had to err on the side of going more obscure with the Sith planet or less, I think it's better that he made it more obscure.
Well, I'm talking not so much like metaphorical obscurity. I'm talking about like visual obscurity.
Yeah,
like
there's
like literally like shit. What am I seeing? I can't make out.
Is this the last season of Game of Thrones?
Right.
It's amazing. We did an entire battle in complete blackness. It cost us $400 million. You can't see it, but trust me, it's there.
There's just so many things where like the visual obscurity. It's hard, but I'm all for the obscurity in terms of ideas and lore and all that. That's fine. It's more just like, man, I can't see what's going on.
And it's kind of in collaboration with Last Jedi having the Praetorian Guards, who also weren't the Imperial Guard. Like there's so many things. Like stormtroopers are stormtroopers. They just look different. Praetorian Guards are not Imperial Guards. Whatever those weird things were aren't that. Okay. So let's get to my number 5 winner.
Okay.
Which would have been my number 1 winner.
Ooh.
But it's not. Okay. My number 5 winner is C-3PO.
All right. Okay. Yeah. That's definitely in the plus column. Okay.
He finally lives up to his comedic potential. C-3PO's been funny, but every single one of his lines that was supposed to be funny was legitimately laughably funny. Like, ha ha, funny.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just that he's like a fussy racist like he is in most of them.
Right. Yeah.
You know, he was comedic relief in the way that he should be. I like the way that he played off the other droids. I but why is he not higher, Steve?
I don't know.
Okay.
What's the drawback that you're?
Okay, the main drawback, and this goes back to the prequel thing, Steve, about loving the prequels.
Okay. All right.
You know, before I even get there, I'm gonna take one more trip to the prequels and give you another example.
Okay.
Of all the musical callbacks, they didn't play the song from Revenge of the Sith when Rey and Kylo were fighting on the Death Star.
You would have liked a little. What's that track called?
I don't know what it's called. Like Brothers Fight or
Battle of Heroes or something.
Whatever it is. It's
very generic, but I know what you're talking about. It's a beautiful piece of music.
It's a beautiful piece, and to Abrams' credit, he made a scene that very clearly is supposed to echo that fight.
Yeah. Yes.
But the sounds just weren't there.
Yeah, and I think
you know what? And in general, Steve, the sound designer got way more juice in this movie than John Williams did.
That's what I was just gonna say. I feel like that's one of those times where the sound design, they were so proud of that whole scene technically that I think you're exactly right. I think just the sound of the ocean and all that clearly overruled whatever was going on musically.
I think part of the reason the lightsaber fights didn't really hit is they didn't have Williams helping them.
Yeah, I would have been, I don't know if I would wanted a whole just complete repeat of that, but at least a nod to it would have helped a lot.
Well, it would have hit me in the feels. So getting back to C-3PO.
Yeah.
So
right,
he was hilarious.
Yes.
But why did he get his memory back? The thing that makes C-3PO so delightful is that R2-D2 knows everything and C-3PO knows nothing. C-3PO can speak, R2-D2 can't. R2-D2 can hold things and make it BB-8. Who cares? But C-3PO's memory being wiped at the end of Episode 3 is a very important plot point and makes his character tragic. Like, it adds a depth to his character that if you just give him his memories back, like, I don't mind they're dead, they're not dead, the thing that they did like 5 times in the movie. Like, it's okay. That's okay the first time. Second time, you just have to see through it.
I've got some, this is definitely making me think about some things, because I agree with you that 3PO's memory being wiped in Episode 3, it should have, to me, it was just, the way it was executed was just, it just did not, it was so hastily done, and it's just a throwaway thing. Whereas this, like you're saying, I think they had an opportunity to make that same kind of moment much more impactful than it played on screen. And they did
because he made a real sacrifice that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, killing Chewbacca would have been a huge sacrifice that would have been the lead line in most people talking about the movie.
Right.
But like, if C-3PO's memory had actually been wiped, it would have been like, oh my God, that's just so weird. He doesn't remember anything. And it would have left you with a sense of like loss and a little bit of incompleteness that would have lent an air of gravity to the character and to the movie that they just lost. And because his whole thing about saying goodbye to my friends, I mean, it doesn't quite make sense, obviously, because he didn't know those people, but that doesn't matter. He can say I'm saying goodbye to my friends, but undercutting that moment so strongly. Because who really cares if C-3PO doesn't have his memory? I mean, that's such a small point to give back. So that's why he's not higher. I think he would have been the best character in the whole movie.
Yeah, imagine like if R2 hadn't been able to do that, and they just, I actually would have loved that they get to meet each other again, and that would have been so much better. I totally agree.
And I think that goes to not understanding. It's weird. It's sort of like not understanding C-3PO, even though they made him so funny.
Yeah, no, that's true.
His ignorance is really what's so funny about him.
Yeah, I loved seeing him running around in that trench coat. I don't know why, and just the visual of that,
because of us,
hilarious.
Steve. It goes back to us talking about him needing a trench coat on Endor, poncho on Endor. Give C-3PO his battle poncho.
Yeah. No, they did pull a little bit of a, oh no, Frodo, in this movie a little bit too much for me. Or like I feel like in those Lord of the Rings movies, Frodo was almost always dying, and everyone was reacting so crazily. Whenever you just know it doesn't mean anything. It's yeah. That's one of those movie things that irks me. So
Yeah, and it's the main reason that it's a problem is that
yeah,
it's we're gonna watch these movies 1,000 times,
yes, yeah.
and I can't think of any fake out deaths in any other Star Wars movies ever.
No, not in the way that they did it with this.
Not
No.
That's weird, right?
It is kind of weird. It is weird.
Now that I'm thinking about it, like, and this is sort of okay. So this is another thing that we talked about with Last Jedi, and I think is worth mentioning, is that often when people, and this is all the idiots that are listening, Steve, obviously,
Yeah,
when
me
they
too. I'm not listening.
when they talk about something not being Star Wars or not feeling Star Wars,
Yeah,
what they're talking about is their memory and their perception of their own memory. They're not really talking about anything that you can speak about objectively. There are so many things that are broken that are objectively not Star Wars that people don't talk about, that it's extremely confusing to me. Like people saying that like that's not Luke Skywalker. Well, okay, but
yeah,
but that is a subjective opinion of what a character is, and
right.
there's no like definitive explanation of what Luke Skywalker is. There is a cinematic language to Star Wars, and that's tied into the leitmotifs that were violated, like I said before. And then they're violated with things like this of having the fake deaths, which don't bother me in terms of happening in movies.
Right,
But that's
yeah.
not one of the Star Wars tropes.
It's not a yeah, exactly. It's not a Star Wars trope.
And most importantly, when people talk about Rian Johnson breaking Star Wars, he did. He broke the last 5 minutes of Star Wars, and so did J.J. Abrams. Star Wars always ends with a wordless montage with John Williams music and something meaningful and an extended period of time where you just can't believe that no one's talking, and then it ends. and Rian Johnson just flushed that down the toilet, and not a single person I've watched who's complained about Holdo or anything has ever mentioned this. And this is an actual problem. This is an actual cinematic problem because there is a form to a Star Wars movie.
It's a structural problem. Yeah.
Yes. And another one is the addition of slow motion. Like
Yeah,
there is
yeah.
a cinematic language to Star Wars, and
Both of them have done it. Yeah.
they've both done it. That's the thing. They both destroyed the ending by not having it be wordless. Like having her say Skywalker, that should have been followed with 5 minutes of montage to follow the nature of how a Star Wars movie works.
Yeah. Well, see, you're getting back to your thing about there's really only 6 Star Wars
Yes,
movies, Sky. You have to
there
remember, you have to, these. So maybe the slow mo and the dialogue close to the end. That's this Star Wars. You have to,
Yeah. But he was able to do it for Force Awakens,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Well, I really this is going great. I need to go to the bathroom now, so I'll be right back.
All right. Fair enough. I'll get some water.
Take a little break. I'll play a little bit of music or something.
Okay.
All right. I'm back. Steve, you back?
Okay. I'm back. Yeah. It's funny. Digby's
Steve?
not used to an
Oh wait, I plugged in
intermission.
the wrong headphones.
Oh.
That's why they call it the radio, folks. All
Yes.
right. So you're back, Steve.
I'm back. Yeah, I was just saying, like Digby's not used to an intermission in Kivecast recordings. He was so confused. He went out and he was like, "Wait, what?"
While I was going to the bathroom, I was checking YouTube as I do, and Jenny Nicholson is a YouTube reviewer. I don't know if you know her. She's really great. Like she's just very funny, very engaging. And her title is "Oh No, the Rise of Skywalker was real bad." And I have noticed that most of the kind of left-leaning YouTubers that I really like seem to really despise this movie.
Is that so?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Interesting.
I think for the most part, it's because most of them don't actually care about Star Wars that much. And I think they sort of misunderstand the relationship between Last Jedi and this.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say it again. The problem with Last Jedi is Trump Clinton. Like that's the problem. Like fundamentally it's internet. It's the internet. Like internet is why Trump Clinton happened.
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
division that happened in our brains in 2016. And that's why we respond to Last Jedi. We have this need in our soul to have this division, and both sides of it are equally complicit in getting this juice out
right.
of this conflict.
And it does seem to be that's the case again. But that's why I've just stayed away. It's just, yeah, no.
Except I think this movie did a better job of pissing off people who loved Last Jedi than it did of pleasing people who hated it.
Okay.
Because I've seen a lot of people who basically say like, well, it wasn't good. It's better than Last Jedi, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But we're kind of getting away from the value sense, Steve. Is this just a review? I don't know.
It's okay. We're gonna get back on track.
Good.
So where are we?
But I mean, just to go back to C-3PO, just as an idea.
Yes.
Like, I do think it matters for the long-term health of this character as a collectible that he won so definitively in this movie, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
if he were not funny, if he did not acquit himself so nicely in this whole movie, I mean, just so funny and delightful, then I think that's going to have an impact on people who collect C-3PO in the future, and this will make him as a character more collectible going forward.
Yeah.
So,
All right. I gotta know what would you say is your favorite 3PO bit? Like, what was your favorite bit of comedy?
well, it's not quite. The Babu Freak line mainly just because that's Babu Freak, but probably
Okay.
where he looked behind himself. That I thought
Yeah.
that was
Okay.
funny.
So when he's talking about the special treats of the
Yes.
festival,
Yes,
yeah,
and they look behind him and just
yeah,
that was kind
so
of a
good.
silly. That's not Star Wars. That kind of humor is not Star Wars, but that's
But
fun to me. Like it
yeah.
plays, it goes quickly. Yeah,
I love that. I think that was probably my top one as well.
yeah. My number 4 loser, is Vader.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering where he might factor in for you.
And I'm
Not Anakin, but Vader.
No. Just Vader, he just didn't seem to be much of a presence, really. Like, in the movie, the Emperor was so, they didn't even really mention him as being, I guess what Vader couldn't be. He's mentioned in the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it just doesn't really feel like he's super important in this trilogy. And his helmet was cool. I like seeing it again. But it didn't. I guess I didn't feel really any connection to
Yeah.
him.
You know what? This might get into. I totally get where you're coming from, and one of those things that makes me think about this is that early scene, intercutting scene of Rey training and Kylo kind of connecting with the helmet. They were intercut so quickly, and the music was kind of like this, kind of like I don't know. It was like a faster version of the Vader theme, and it didn't have weight that I would have hoped it would.
Yeah.
It just seemed kind of, there it is. Here's the theme. It's kind of in your face, and then we're on to the next part of the scene. It didn't, if they had just slowed it down just a little bit right there, I think that would have gone a long way. But yeah.
And it's also partly tied into my number 4 winner.
Okay. All right.
And this I hemmed and hawed for so long.
Okay.
Did the Emperor win or lose this movie? Me, as an Emperor figure collector. So this is what I ultimately decided.
Yeah, right.
I think it's very clear that the usage of the Emperor in this movie is something we can talk about, and we'll have a fun conversation about that. Mm-hmm. The Emperor as a collectible is just helped because now it's 3 trilogies with this character in it.
Yeah.
And it reminds the younger generation that he's still there. And the only risk was that he would have been used so poorly that he would destroy the character.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, of course, has never happened. So I think he was a big winner. I almost made him higher.
I was to tell you, I'm drinking from my own Emperor cup right now. I've got
nice.
one of those theater cups with the Emperor on it, so out of tradition's sake. But so I think the thing I liked the most about him was that he kind of looked like a glorified drugstore Halloween decoration for a good chunk of the movie.
Yes.
I loved that actually. That that he was just dangling there, and that's something that you get some of that kind of horror aesthetic in Clone Wars and stuff, but never in the main movies so much. So to get something that's very grotesque and very I don't know, undead, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, because I was talking about this, and sort of in the beginning movies, he's the Phantom.
Right.
In the prequels, he's the Phantom, and then in the original trilogy, he's basically Dracula.
Yeah,
trying to suck
yeah.
the life out. And in this movie, he's a zombie. And I think it all
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of works. And
It does.
I definitely agree that, I think this movie is going to always be overrated and underrated at the same time. Because J.J. Abrams is more brave than people give him credit for.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
especially with the new characters, right? But with the old characters, you're right. I mean, he just said he's going to be silly and ridiculous and over the top and campy, and that's how he's going to be, and it'll just be fine. And like they completely committed to that idea, and I think it worked. And
I think it worked better the way that they applied the camp in this than they did with Revenge of the Sith. Like I cannot, for the majority of that, I can't get behind it. But whereas this,
Steve, you're going to be having a kid soon, and when you watch those movies with that kid, you'll be so happy. You'll just be like, "Oh man, this is so." Anyways, I'm so glad
nothing's
that
ever,
my kids
nothing's
get
ever
smart
touched.
movies. Yeah,
Nothing's ever going to touch the original performance of the Emperor, though. Like no matter, even if it's the same actor, it's never going to be that. So you have to just separate and think of your Emperor in three stages, and I'm able to kind of cope with it that way. So in here, he's a creepy zombie hanging at Rite Aid, that's the way I think of him.
but also it's the sort of love it or hate it of Abrams' movie style, which is like nothing is explained. We don't know who the dudes in the hoods are. We don't know where the statues come from. We don't know what the lightning is. We don't know why he came back. We don't know how he came back. We don't know what's up with the Pocasnokes.
Right. I it's funny mentioning the Snoke thing. I was rewatching The Last Jedi the other night, thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to be seeing this again. I want to just see what it feels like watching them back to back, having seen The Rise of Skywalker now, and just kind of imagining Snoke literally as like a finger puppet. It was interesting. I mean, it to me, I know maybe people might disagree with the way that I think it still kind of works. Like you're saying, when you pull back, you get the grand puppet master thing with the Emperor, and it still works generally to me, but I don't know.
And also, Steve, I called it.
Oh my god.
Can we have a little moment here, because in 2015,
rewind.
the first one of these reaction shows, I came on here and I explained how her lightsaber form indicated that Rey was a Palpatine.
We need a little Wayne's World backtrack.
Okay, we'll see if I have the time to edit this in. I guess I can. So I'll put that in right here. Here is the December 2015 Kivecast, episode 68, at around the 1 minute and 7 seconds. 1 hour, 7 minutes, 28 seconds mark. In 10 years, the Emperor is going to be worth as much as most vintage figures. Like, that's just one of my thoughts, that he's going to be up there, right? Like right now, he's like considered like Klaatu, but I think
I wouldn't say that bad.
Pretty close. Yeah. But I think that when the prequel generation starts buying vintage toys, we're going to see a huge spike in interest in the Emperor. But I have to say that with Snoke, that it feels to me that the Emperor's going down. But I will say this, Steve. This is my theory, and I'm really proud of this theory. You know how everyone's asking about where does Rey come from?
Yeah.
I think I figured it out, Steve. If you watch her lightsaber form, nerdiest thing I've said on this podcast ever. If you watch her lightsaber form, it is a stabbing form. Do you know who uses a stabbing form, Steve? You wouldn't, because you don't watch the prequels because you're a snob.
Dude, that's my least favorite. One of my least favorite scenes of that whole movie. It's his.
Steve, you're one of my least favorite scenes from that whole movie. That scene is awesome. The Emperor's the coolest, and his lightsaber style is this weird stabbing style. And Rey uses the same style. And so my theory is that Rey is actually the offspring, or somehow related, to Emperor Palpatine. And let me tell you how it makes sense. She then becomes the perfect mirror reflection of Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren was born to goodness and then turned to darkness. She was born to darkness and turned to goodness. Like, he was like nurtured and went against that nurturing and went to the dark side. She was completely abandoned, yet is somehow one of the most chipper, happy girls you could possibly imagine, going sledding in the sand and putting on helmets and, you know, just a totally good-natured girl. And I think what we're going to see is this fight between, I think it's going to be grandparents. I think Palpatine is going to be her grandfather and Vader's going to be Kylo's grandfather. That's going to be this whole thing of like, is good nature or nurture? And I think in the end, they're both going to be good, and it's going to be this weird, cool thing of like. But I think she's going to be really tested when she finds this out. And I think that's why she was hidden. She was hidden because she's too dangerous, because she's like direct descendant of the most dangerous person in the universe, Steve. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me that's not the best answer, Steve.
I will say it's not an interesting answer. I think it's a very interesting answer. I don't know. I don't know. And people are probably going to get upset if I say this. I kind of like the fact that she doesn't necessarily have to be related to anybody, right? But I guess she has to, just in the sense of the way the story usually works. But I don't know.
She doesn't have to be, but it's more interesting if she does. And you can complain and say it's so derivative. We know she has to be. But
well, no, it's not even that. I mean, I guess if I was going to say maybe like Obi-Wan's descendant or something, I don't know. But that's because I like Obi-Wan, so that's a little bit biased.
But to me, that's so against his character. I don't think he should. But I could easily see Palpatine being like, I'm going to spread my seed as far as I can, the dark side of the uterus. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God, what? That is pretty disturbing. But yeah, I think that's quite.
Oh, I'm afraid my sperm is quite motile.
All right.
Best usage of motile on this podcast. Okay. Anyway, so that's my theory. So in the event that that's true, the Emperor's right back up again in terms of relevance. But I would say in general, Obi-Wan and the Emperor are... I'm sorry, Steve, this is one of those moments where I'm so pleased with myself, it's hard for me to actually continue going on, because I'm throwing my arm out, patting myself on the back. Okay, now back to the episode. I'm 4 years later, I'm still patting myself on the back. And in that, you heard me explain it, and all the reasons that it made sense then, it makes sense now. I like Rey being a Palpatine. Because the thing is that a lot of people said, well, this just means that you have to have magic blood. But that's not actually the point.
No.
The point is that it's funny because it's also kind of a Harry Potter point.
But it doesn't
matter because Star Wars said it first. It's all the same thing. Like you are what you do, Harry. But like it's true. It's like you are what you do, and your family is the people that you love. And it's not who you're born to, and things are more. And that Luke got the best line in the movie. There's things more important than blood.
That was what that line is the thing that made it work okay for me. Because to me, I don't know if still now that scene where he just says you're his granddaughter, you have his power. It does not I feel like Daisy Ridley's reaction, given the kind of flatness of Kylo Ren, is still great, but it doesn't punch as hard as I would hope. But yeah. But
I agree. I almost wonder if that was kind of intentional, that this reveal is not supposed to be I am your father moment. I think it's supposed to be a lot less than that.
I don't think it necessarily would have wanted that so much. I'm not. It might just be a thing where I'm being an idiot and I don't know exactly what I was wanting out of that scene. But it's just
no. I don't think you're an idiot because you're right. It's flat. That scene's flat.
A little flat.
That's a flat announcement. but that might just be that he had restraint, and he knew that he wouldn't get the emotional response of "No, I'm your father," no matter what. So why not play it flat?
Yeah. Well, and she says, it's like, yeah, you know what you have to do, and she says, "I do." Like that. Is a well delivered. That kind of gets me through the scene. Is that bit? But yeah.
And I'll tell you, Steve, this whole theme of there are things more important than blood. And I'm working on this essay in my head, but like, I did write an essay just for fun in 2005. About why did Revenge of the Sith end the way it did? At that point, a lot of people were saying it should have ended with Yoda going off to Dagobah. And
is that what people said?
Yeah. And so I wrote this whole essay that the reason it ended that way is because George Lucas is an adoptive father. So in the original trilogy, adoptive parents are killed off with the most unceremonious deaths you can have. One's killed off, one set is killed in a planet, the other is burnt to a crisp, and it means absolutely nothing. Their not biological parents is just a function of storytelling because that works and that follows Bambi and Disney and all that crap, right?
Right.
By the time of Revenge of the Sith, George Lucas cares deeply about his kids. They're both, they're all adopted, 3 of them, right?
Yeah.
And that's what means the world to him. So he's able to make this thing where Jimmy Smits and the where the Larses and the Organas are the New Hope. Like, if it weren't for their kind, loving intervention, nothing would have happened. It's because of adoptive parenting that the blood that was in them, the Darth Vader blood, turned into Anakin Skywalker goodness and love. It was the love of those parents that did it. And so in the essay, I explain how, there's different kinds of adoption. So there's adoption where you keep your old name, and there's adoption where you take on the new name, and they had one of each, and it all works really beautifully together.
Yeah.
And this was an extension of that. So maybe I should give JJ credit for understanding the prequels.
I'm totally in agreement there. I mean, I think that was probably the one. I mean, that gets me through the end of that movie, is that little Lucas montage with those scenes and with exactly what you're talking about. But
it's not because of the damn feels of seeing the
sunset.
It's all of a sudden you feel pathos for the Larses, because oh my God, they took this baby and they raised it, and it was the baby, like this monster. Luke Skywalker was born a monster, you know what I mean? But through their tough love, just whatever. They aren't even great parents, right? They're just fine. They're just doing what they have to do. But that kind of love is what makes Luke great.
Yeah. No.
And this movie, The Rise of Skywalker, does that same thing by making Rey the biggest possible monster of nature, the most possible threat. And in the end, she rejects it to be something better. And I'll tell you, it's possible to lead this movie because the line is repeated twice. The theme of this movie is "Don't be afraid of who you are." That's not the theme of the movie. The theme is you get to decide what you are.
Right. Yeah.
And
I think it's to the whole. I get where people might, like you were saying, be disappointed that the Rey from nowhere, in terms of how it was presented in The Last Jedi, is no longer that. But to me, it still can be interpreted as that, because she's still self-made. She still chooses to be who she is,
Right.
Yeah.
And it's also sort of on a personal note, I now have a blended family, and my wife is a stepmom, and like this messaging is really important in our world. Like, my brother is an adoptive father, and so I really think that was important. And I think these are really important messages that need to get out more. Because I didn't know this, by the way, Steve, but like step parents are just treated like garbage, like everywhere. And
just
like
generally
just
on planet Earth. Yeah,
I think there should be a step parent day. And I get it that a lot of them are not good. A lot of parents aren't good, right? They still get a Father's Day and a Mother's Day.
Right. No.
But the task that is given to step parents is incredible. And the amount of like grief and suspicion that they're greeted with. Anyways,
I've been very, very, very lucky in that sense that I have two amazing step parents. So I completely understand what you're saying.
right. And where's that representation? Well, we're maybe moving towards it by having this idea that biology does not determine everything.
Right.
And even the midichlorians don't determine everything. Everyone can get mad at Lucas for including the midichlorians, but the midichlorians didn't turn Anakin bad. The midichlorians didn't give Luke all of his strength. It's also the Larses'. So, anyway, that's the other part of the reason why the Emperor, I think, is a winner. Is I think in time people will really come to appreciate it more that he's in this movie. I think it'll become clear that it was always established, as I proved by playing it for you, and just making it very clear that this was always intentional. This is what it was going to be. This is what it is.
Oh man, I so wish we could get like making of books or true, or something that really like got into the nitty gritty, because they really, it's at least with the JJ movies in this trilogy, they seem to be steering away from that. And I don't know if that's a JJ thing or if that's a Disney thing or whatnot, but yeah, I'm so curious, what the early history of that is, because
oh my god, the amount that the tell-all books, it does kill me. I do wish I could know everything. It would be great to know everything, like everything, all the fire directors, all the reasons why, all the real truths.
But it's it's the miracle of Star Wars, though. I mean, they still made it through somehow. But
so I would say Vader loses because his overall importance, I think, was really diminished because of the big bad guys of the original trilogy. Darth Vader was a helmet, and the Emperor was the supreme architect of everything that happened.
Yeah. Oh, quick shout out to the bald Emperor prototype.
Oh yes,
I'd say that's
Brock
a sub winner. Yeah. You finally, I think, we saw him get turned into bald Dynacast there as he was blown away. But...
Yeah, so we've talked about the unproduced Emperor prototype, in which he doesn't have any hair, and he doesn't have a hood.
We'll definitely circle back to him. I don't know when we'll hit the Emperor in the show, but yeah, that's coming.
Yeah.
All right. So are we into the top three now? Are we getting there?
Yes. Yeah, we're in the top three.
Right.
The number 3 loser, Steve, is R2-D2. Almost number 1. But the one thing that all new Star Wars creators agree with is who cares about R2-D2? I'll say I'm glad that you at least saw him in the X-Wing at the end, and you had some at least more screen time, I feel like, than any of the two previous movies. But you realize, I think what it came down to is the scene where they're in the snake pit or whatever. It's like R2 just wouldn't, like, unless they went George Lucas and just completely CGI'd him, which it seems like they were very against, which I'm okay with. He just doesn't fit into the way that they're telling these stories now. He just doesn't. Which it's a bummer. And it's speaking of which, I like the snake pit scene. I think that's
delightful. I'm fine with the snake pit scene.
I'm totally fine with it being a very conscious Spielberg impression
Goonies
with the lightsabers
and Indiana Jones
and all that.
Oh yeah,
I'm fine with that because this is not a Star Wars movie.
Because it's not a Star Wars movie. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Because it's a J.J. Abrams movie, and one thing J.J. Abrams has to do at all times is lick Steven Spielberg's feet at all times, which is good. They're good feet, tasty.
Yeah.
So like R2-D2, I actually think Rian Johnson used R2-D2 well.
Well, he did in the one moment
that he did. That's the only moment of interest that he has in the entire series. And my theory is, well, okay, your theory is probably more correct, that they want to do things more practical and they just can't move around enough.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that he couldn't have been around more. Like he could go on adventures and stay with the ship.
Right, and they kind of hinted at that with that crazy opening scene with the Bulio or whatever. It's funny, when that alien guy that you liked, I thought his name was literally Julio with a J. The first several times I watched it, but there was R2 in that brief moment. But that's kind of what he's limited to. He's something that you got to plug a message into on the ship.
He's been a hard drive.
Yeah,
he's been an external hard drive that you like find in your desk. Right. But I think it's kind of a symbolic thing that R2-D2 is George Lucas. Like everything that happens in Star Wars, R2D2 knows. You know, there's that
He's
goofy
seen
song
it all.
R2D2 knows.
Yep.
He's seen it all, and George
Yep.
Lucas intentionally created it that R2D2 is the real star of all 6 real Star Wars movies, and I think sidelining him is partly intentional. That is sort of the cinematic way of killing George Lucas, which is fine. He sold
Yeah.
it. He deserves to be killed, you know, on screen, right? Right? You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying.
he doesn't have any right to say anything about these movies because he doesn't make Star Wars movies anymore, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Although, man, I would love for that stunt if they could get him back. Oh, that'd be great. So I just feel like he was replaced by BB-8. BB-8's better, you know.
He's a sign of the times. Yeah.
But BB-8's, I mean, he just might be. I think he's just a better droid than R2D2. He's great. He's cute. Yeah. He's funny. He moves around. He does a lot of the same things as R2D2. But I don't know. I think he might be better. Am I losing you, Steve?
Oh, yeah, you're not losing me. But yeah, you might be losing some others.
Yeah. No, he's obviously not better, but
No.
He's really good. And they didn't find someone to replace C-3PO because you can't replace Anthony Daniels, which I'll get to soon.
No.
But you can replace, Astromechs. My number 3 winner, Steve.
Okay.
And this might be surprising. It's Han Solo.
Okay.
And Han Solo
All right.
collectibles.
Yeah.
When people talk about feels, okay, I get it. You know, you like seeing the twin sunset because it reminds you of when you were a kid. Okay, fine. The scene, for me, and this partly goes to being a father. Like, one of the most interesting things about these movies is the continuation of the theme of the sins of the father. And so the generation that had to deal with the sins of the father being portrayed in the original trilogy are now the fathers who have to worry about the sins of the children. So Kylo Ren very much represents the sort of school shooting fear that we have of all of our kids turning against us and killing us, right?
Yeah.
Like, you'll be a parent soon, and you'll see what that is. Like, when your kids get older, and you're like, oh my God, what could happen? Like, it's a very real fear. And so the scene in The Force Awakens was spectacular, was great. That scene on the boardwalk is just as good as Luke, I'm your father. I mean, really, it is. It's an amazing, amazing scene that is completely underrated because it's in a new movie, and completely underrated because Harrison Ford. My father hates that scene. He keeps talking about it all the time, which makes sense. Fathers generally don't like patricide.
Right. I'd say, I get where he's coming from.
But I do like themes of patricide because it's No, but not because I want my kids to kill me, but because it's very interesting. Like, that fear, where does that fear come from? How does it manifest itself? And that's what this is. That is the scene. And every time I watch Force Awakens, I've seen it probably 20 times now, that scene gets me because Kylo Ren kills his father, says the dialogue, and Han puts his hand on his face and shows him love.
Yeah.
And in that moment, even talking about it now, I could cry right now. And it's not because I remember watching the movie with my kids and it was 2015 that's very real human emotion. Like, if my kids killed me, I would forgive them as they were doing it. You know, and that's a crazy thing to say, right? Because I don't want anybody to kill me, right? But like, if I failed my children so bad that they killed me, I wouldn't be thinking, you son of a bitch, I'm going to get you. I would be thinking, oh my God, I've failed. I love you. Let me show you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So having him come back and doing that mirrored dialogue thing, which they did excellently, and I think will pay off in the future when people who have strong nostalgia for Force Awakens can feel that Star Wars feels with that scene having the dialogue mirrored. The fact that really the turning of Kylo back to Ben, the thing that saves the universe, is him remembering that touch.
Yeah.
Because they say very clearly he's just a memory. Han Solo's not there. It's 100% inside Ben's mind.
And this is one of those moments where it might not be in the cinematic language of Star Wars, but it completely worked for me. It's my favorite scene in the movie.
Yes.
That interaction.
Me too. But see, it's at least in the thematic language of the movie.
Yeah, it's the thematic language. Yes. Yeah.
Because now Han Solo has successfully sacrificed himself to save his son.
Yeah.
Princess Leia said, "Bring him back," and Han was like, "I'll try," and he goes, and he did it. He did it because it's the memory that turns Kylo into Ben. It's the memory of that touch on his face that made me cry in 2015 and makes me cry in 2019. The human emotion of forgiveness and loss and father-son connection is the strength of Star Wars.
Yeah, yeah.
So, great job, JJ. When I say that he's underrated and overrated, that's why.
That's one of those, yeah.
Because forget it, man. That's so good. There's nothing in the original trilogy that makes me that emotional. Nothing. I mean, almost when Darth Vader has his helmet taken off, that gets me pretty emotional.
Sure.
Well, and obviously when that little Ewok gets stepped on. Little guy. But yeah. So,
oh, man.
So I think that making this brings Han's stock up again.
Yeah.
Because it made his arc work in the new movie where he really did it.
He was high on my. Well, I didn't really rank them, but I think he's in my winners column for sure. And it's just and the actors too. I mean, it really, you have to just sit back and appreciate Adam Driver and Harrison Ford. I mean, they're perfect together. It just was. It's amazing.
Yeah, and. Yeah, when I go back to see it again tomorrow, and when I go back to see it again next week, like the reason that I didn't see Rogue One or Solo 7 times in the theater, I only saw them 3 or 4 times, is they didn't have any moments like that. It's not that they're not great movies, but they didn't have these kinds of moments.
It's the emotional core that I'd argue that even though these aren't your Star Wars movies, Skye, but I still think they have that emotional core that makes them.
Are you going to make me recant everything?
No, I'm not.
No, I'm joking. I think you're right. I think you're right that they might have the emotional core.
They do to me.
Yeah.
All right.
Jeez, Steve.
All right. I think we're both wiping tears a little.
Yeah.
This is okay.
Well, it's really nice to be able to recognize something so successful in the middle of a movie, which obviously is a very imperfect movie, right? Like cinematically and storytelling wise, my initial review was it was terrible. I loved it. And I've nuanced it since then because I don't think it's terrible. Like I think it does enough things well that it's a mess, but I love it is pretty good way to say it.
I think I'm probably within range. That's for me too.
Yeah, it's nothing compared to what my vision of the sequel to Last Jedi would have been.
No, but we have to let that go.
We do have to let that go. And it's good because that would have pissed off so many people, and I don't feel like I could deal with that. I'm genuinely happy that it seems like a lot of fans are made happy by this. That's great. That's fine. Yes,
but that's fine.
So my number 2 winner, is original Leia.
Okay, yeah.
I think Leia was great. I think she's great in this movie. I think the weird this is the thing, man. Like there's a lot of detectives out there, a lot of real smart detectives who notice things like plot holes and inconsistencies and visual effects, and they are destroying art as quickly as they possibly can. Their goal on Earth is to destroy art and replace it with things that make sense. So of course you can tell that it wasn't filmed at the same time. Yeah, it makes sense. Like, okay. Like, absolutely, I see that.
It's the impossible task. I mean, it is...
Except the strength of the character as the character is now is that it's Carrie Fisher playing Princess Leia.
Yeah.
She's not a good actor anymore, I don't think. But she is worth watching. Even in her bad acting, the Princess Leia-ness of Carrie Fisher and the Carrie Fisher-ness of Princess Leia is written into the character. The sort of brokenness, the world weariness, the humor.
Yeah.
It's so there that, like, even her dying and having to recover old parts of her, I think, makes sense with who she was and the difficulty. Because I think the impossible task was having her in the movie ever. Not this movie, just having somebody who's in such sincere, emotional, and physical trouble be in the movies at all. And this isn't an insult. I'm not making fun of Carrie Fisher. Like, she was a great artist, a great actor, a great figure, who I don't think was capable of doing what she was asked to do. And I think they worked around it the best in this movie.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but I'd say that given the circumstances, the external factors going into it, like it's kind of like how, you know, Leia in Return of the Jedi, just to me, that whole thing about, now she is the other, she's the sister. It had such an impact on that movie, and also the end of Star Wars then, whereas this, it's the same thing happening again, but in a different and really, really sad way. But given all that external pressure, all that external force on it, I think what they were able to do, and how they were doing it, it's not just that they were able to do it. Like, that's the thing with Rogue One. Yeah, we're able to digitally replace, you know, there she is, and isn't this amazing? It's not that they are able to do it. It's how they were doing it, and this, to me, it's the polar opposite of that. And I was I'm sure just as anyone making this movie was so fearful of it, I was terrified of it. And it really, it's beautiful. It's
my main issue is the funeral scene.
Okay.
There's no funerals in Star Wars except for Padme at the end of the thing, and that was woven into the long, you know, montage.
Kind of epilogue. Yeah.
This goes into the worst moment in a science fiction movie of the last 20 years. Whatever the Star Trek movie was after Leonard Nimoy died.
I see. I'm not. This isn't my wheelhouse. I'm not gonna.
It was like 45 minutes of the movie was like recognizing that the old original Spock died, and it just places it so firmly in one time. Because, Steve, this is kind of a spoiler, but everybody dies. So, like, you know, like, if Alec Guinness died while filming Return of the Jedi, and they added an extra scene of people going, I really miss Obi-Wan, we'd see it now and just go, what the hell is that?
Right.
So it felt a little bit too much like...
I see what you're getting at, yeah.
It felt a little too much of a wink to the audience. But that being said, it was 5 seconds. It's fine. I thought it was nice that they took Maz Kanata to be the voice of what Leia was doing. I like them connecting Kanata and Leia. I think those characters work
too. Well. I feel like that, and that seems like that was something that goes back to The Force Awakens that was kind of intrinsically there but never really fleshed out for whatever reason. And it seems like that's a JJ thing. Like, I loved Maz in the first and third. I couldn't stand the way they brought her into The Last Jedi. Like, this is the two. That's what her... To me, that's what her character really was all about.
I will say that I will defend Rian Johnson to a lot. I will not defend whatever that was with Maz Kanata.
Thank you. I'm glad that we can agree on that. That's my least favorite scene in that whole movie. That right there.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry. Yeah. Getting to Leia. Yeah.
So I really liked, because I just talked about how Han was a winner because of his sacrifice, but now, if we bring together in the fact that Kylo couldn't shoot her, right? And that whole scene, her getting blown out anyways, I love it. I love Leia in space. I love her using the Force. I love the fact that he didn't do it, but someone who he was in charge of did it. I love the implied guilt in that. Then that there's a mystery about what does Leia actually do.
Right. Yeah.
Because why does she disappear at the end?
The connections,
Is she inhabiting his body the whole time?
Right. See,
what does she do?
I tend to just think of it not even getting into trying to explain any logic. I think of it just more as when her son's at peace, she's at peace, and that's all I need to think about it as. I don't.
Now you're gonna make me cry again. That's a beautiful way of putting it.
That was something a friend asked me today. It's like, so yeah, what do you think was? I'm like, that's all it is to me. Like once Ben was at peace, even though Leia was not physically her whatever, her spirit was at peace, and then that's it. But that's all it needed to be for me.
Yeah, and I like the mystery of what was it that she did. What did she actually say to him? It's not that clear, and it's again one of these great moments of restraint in a movie that doesn't. On the surface, doesn't have a lot of restraint, but actually does.
Surface level, right.
It's surface level excess, profound restraint.
Yes, yeah.
And I love that combination. That really, Ben was saved. Like, Ben was turned, I think, because he was raised poorly, and he was saved because he was cared for by Rey, and he was cared for by his parents, and he was able to see. Like there was. Yeah. I thought it was a great, believable turn, and that's pretty hard to do.
That's true. I mean, God, just getting to the whole.
What have I done?
Yeah, those two turn moments. Like, I bet the screen time is actually quite a bit longer for Hayden Christensen and all that, but I just can't connect emotionally the way I can with this group of characters. It's just I can't. So.
Well, the other problem with that though is that there aren't already 3 movies of Ben being good.
That's true. True.
Ben's only good for 45 seconds, so it works.
Yeah,
if Anakin turned to the dark side and then got killed at the end of Revenge of the Sith, you wouldn't have thought it was too fast. He can't become the Vader that you know in 30 seconds.
It's not so much that's what I'm telling you. Like, it's the bigger picture, broad strokes. It makes sense, but just the way it plays out as a movie just didn't land for me. But,
and
story-wise,
speaking of characters who are Anakin Skywalker, the number 2 loser is Anakin Skywalker.
I had him on my I have a purgatory list. That was the Emperor and Anakin. They were just a list of 2. But
I call it winners, losers, and dunno. I have well, as I told you, my number 1 winner is actually on the dunno list, so I won't read off the dunno list.
Okay, all right, well, wait.
But so Anakin, by not being a Force ghost at the end, that like the Anakin vintage figure does one thing, Steve. Mm-hmm. It is sparkly glowy. That's the only thing the Anakin figure does. Yeah. And this right here is the perfect time to have a sparkly glowy.
But what? Yeah. No, keep going. I've got thoughts churning.
And I get it that a lot of the audience wouldn't know who it was or why it was there. But it's like, it's a sparkly glowy thing. Throw Yoda in there too if you want. You can have multiple things, but thematically, her looking at a couple of Skywalkers and saying Skywalker makes sense. So why not have one more Skywalker?
Yeah,
and have that make sense.
I think this is one of those intersections of the crazy history of these movies and also just the thematic thing. Like in terms of seeing Force ghosts and things, I get like she had never seen or known Anakin. She knew, you could say maybe why hasn't Ben there? Maybe because she knew Luke and Leia. Luke knew Obi-Wan. He knew his father at the end. He knew Yoda. He could see them. There was a connection there. But because there was no personal connection to Anakin, I was fine with him not being there, just story-wise. But I think, like, production-wise, I think the figure is a winner by Hayden Christensen not showing up, and by like a weird CGI version of Sebastian Shaw not showing up. I think the figure wins. I think Anakin Skywalker as a character maybe loses, but the figure, the vintage figure, to me wins. That's why he's in purgatory for me.
Have you ever done a better job of convincing me to disagree with myself than on this episode? Is anyone keeping track? You've basically, every time I've said something, you've managed to change my mind in a completely organic way. I think you may be right about that. Maybe the character, it kind of goes back to, maybe I could have just said all of it with Vader when putting Vader on the loser list.
Yeah.
That how unimportant Anakin is In the
And
end,
that's the thing, yeah.
if we treat this like it's a 9-movie saga and not a 6-movie saga,
Right.
Anakin Skywalker is not the point of this thing.
Right, and
he used to be.
He used to be, and then that's where you're gonna have to make that kind of decision, Skye.
Right.
Six movies that are Star Wars and 3 that are not, or do you accept the bigger? And I think by just avoiding that pitfall altogether, I think that was JJ saying, "Yeah, I'm not." I was a no, thank you. I'm not. I'm not going there. No, thank you. I'm not going there. Which if it was me, I wouldn't have gone there either. So yeah.
Okay, and the reason that I said White Robe Leia was a winner is just because she had a white robe when she was older.
Right.
I thought they should have. Anyways, the other reason. Okay, this is just mark this down, everybody. Remember how I called that Rey was a Palpatine? Here's my next call, and just mark this down because this is the first time I am announcing the next 3 movies in the Skywalker saga. Did you know that? You can laugh. This is like when Kanye said, when I'm president in 2024, and everyone laughed. He goes, "Why y'all laughing?" And he just stares at them until they stop laughing. Why y'all laughing? The next saga is about the child of Kylo and Rey.
Ooh.
The miraculous birth will be repeated, except think about how exactly does Ben save Rey?
See, this is getting to that weird bit of
he puts his force power into her uterus and then kisses her and disappears. If the Force means anything, Steve, if the Force means anything, if it has any kind of magical powers,
the Force of life, it's life.
The Force of life. Rey is 100% pregnant. I remember I said that to my wife. She's like, no. And then she watched it again. She's like, oh my God, you're right. That is 100% the next series. It's going to be a great idea. If it's a boy, they'll name it Sheev. If it's a girl, they'll name it Leia. It makes sense. Just kind of keep it that way. Or Rose, who knows? And it'll be the story of like this, fatherless Force kid in the next generation, and what is their legacy? Is it of a Palpatine? Is it of a Skywalker? And it'll be this sort of magical birth, and it's perfect. Thematically, it makes sense. They set it up in that thing. I think it comes out in 2025. I'd say that's how long they're going to wait.
I'm listening to myself back on your Palpatine take. Yes. I really did sound like an idiot, so I'm going to try to sound less like an idiot now. And
you're going to hop on board.
Yeah, I'm just going to hop on board now.
Hop on board. The Sheev Skywalker trilogy. It's coming. Okay, not the Sheev thing. Okay,
no.
Not that. But I think the Leia Skywalker story makes sense. Even that name isn't taken yet, right? Because she was never Leia Skywalker.
It's true. Yeah.
So that's the other reason Anakin's a loser, because he's not going to be the only magical Force baby with no real father.
Nope. He's no longer the All right.
Now my number one loser is tricky.
Is it really?
Oh no, Steve, it's not going to be the B-Wing pilot. Do you think I would make the same joke more than once? Honestly, Steve, you think too little of me. It's the B-Wing and the B-Wing pilot. No. No, actually, I don't think the B-Wing pilot... I guess the B-Wing pilot did lose. I'll put him as number 11, Steve.
Yeah, that's going to be a coda on this,
yes.
the B-Wing and B-Wing pilot discussion. But all right. So.
I think it's Luke.
Really?
Yeah. I think when people look back at this trilogy, they're going to realize that The Last Jedi was the only interesting thing about Luke. Like, they're going to think, this is why. Because people hate Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. They're wrong. He was great. But they hate it. And that's the only movie he did anything in. In this movie, the majority of collectors don't like Luke in Last Jedi.
Right.
And the only real function that Luke fulfills for them in this movie is rejecting that Luke Skywalker.
But then that's
it's a wrong reading. But when we talk about the collectible of Luke Skywalker, What
Yeah.
did he actually do for this trilogy? You compare it to Han and Leia, who saved everything and did all this stuff. Like, what did Luke actually do?
I'm having to separate the fan part of me versus the collector part of me here.
Right.
So that's the hard part. So I get your argument in terms of, especially with the, I don't know, I feel like the collector, like the collecting community, your interpretation of their feelings on Luke based on this trilogy is spot on. It's unfortunate, but it's accurate. So
Right. And he just, I mean, maybe it won't make a difference because those people who hate The Last Jedi Luke, they're still collecting vintage Luke, I guess, because they still hold on to. I guess nothing could change their perception of what Luke was supposed to be.
I don't think that it ends up being, for them, it ends up being unchanged. I'd say, going into the in terms of presence, I think what they did with him was amazing. But overall, the 3-part bit. But you realize, like you're saying, the meat is right just in that middle chapter, and I have to just accept that. And to me, it works really well. I have to separate the winners and losers collectability thing.
Yes. But that being said, the yellow lightsaber is definite vintage win. Just the accessory.
Yeah. Totally.
That's now a big winner because that's now canon. There's a yellow lightsaber.
Yeah.
And so, Steve, that brings us to the number one winner, which was going to be one of the biggest losers. Steve.
Yeah. It's time.
The number one winner is Chewbacca. And I have a lot of reasons for this.
I figured this might be a good... this is going to be a prolonged segment.
It might not be. It won't be as big as my rant on Williams.
Okay.
But, okay. If we're looking at these new movies and we're trying to figure out... Because the best part of these movies are the new characters, and the worst part is the old characters. I still maintain that's true. I mean, even when I'm saying that Leia and Han were great, they're not anything. Neither of them are as good as Poe's toenail, right?
And I don't think that's not the point,
Right.
But yeah,
the point is passing it on. But that's maybe the way that these movies are most fractured, is that they can't figure out if they're passing the torch or if they're staring at the torch in their cold dead hands while it's still burning and the fingers are turning to skeletons, because you don't ever want to see that torch in anyone's hand besides these 3 people. So when you look at the legacy characters and what are they going to be going forward for the 4th trilogy, and again, people can act like there's not going to be a 4th trilogy. Of course there's going to be a 4th trilogy. Nikki Sixx needs more heroin and Disney needs more money. Okay, there's not some like magical thing where all of a sudden anything stops. Everything.
You just think
going.
it won't be a decade. It'll be maybe like 5 years.
Oh my god, yeah. I mean, totally. It's and good. This is what I want. My favorite Emperor line. That's what I want too. The one thing about the Emperor, he is so bad at sticking the landing of getting people to go to the dark side.
Yeah.
He's just like, you want to go to the dark side. I want you to. If you do this one thing, you'll go to the dark. If you eat this one blue M&M, you will turn to the dark side. Here's the blue M&M. Why are you not eating it? So, like, if we think about it as like these new characters are the greatest, then you have to think about, well, what are the old characters that can move forward and keep up with it? C-3PO is great. But C-3PO is Anthony Daniels. I mean, he wrote the book, I Am C-3PO. Yeah. There will never be another C-3PO.
Yep.
R2-D2 has been discarded and replaced by BB-8 and will be going forward. Lando will never be replaced, at least not in going forward.
Yeah, right.
Luke's dead. Leia's dead. Han's dead.
Right.
That leaves Chewbacca.
Yeah.
One of my biggest complaints was the movie didn't end and say, dedicated in memory to Peter Mayhew.
Yeah.
But the collector in me has realized how fortunate I am for that. Because it doesn't matter who's in the suit.
Yeah.
And actually, I think Eunice like looked fat. It was weird. It was weird. Like he was chubby. He was like a weird. Maybe it's just because the bandolier takes 10 pounds off.
Maybe, yeah, maybe.
But like, I mean, Eunice is good. You know, I've talked about it. I like him.
Yeah,
Pierre he was good. I like it. But in going forward, there's going to be this easy way to have one little teeny tiny toe in the original trilogy that keeps people happy, and they can go, oh, hey, look at that thing. And I think it's always going to be Chewbacca.
The Wookiee bridge.
Yes.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, he's the last one standing.
And I thought it could have been 3PO and R2, but Anthony Daniels is just too good.
It's not. Yeah, I think about it the same way, like, you know, with Yoda and Frank Oz. Honestly, I mean, there's people that can do Yoda in these animated things, but it's never going to be the same. So right. Like, it's you're right. I mean, it's the one legacy character that really can just keep going and going and going.
And I really want to clarify one thing, all you red letter deadbeat brain dead morons out there.
Yeah, and yep.
Just, I get it. You're so much smarter than the filmmakers. It's unbelievable that you're just sitting in your room watching YouTube instead of making amazing art. I don't know how that happened, but there you are. I'm there too, by the way. But I at least have the humility to know that I'm probably wrong when I'm insulting people who are great at what they do. Anyways, except when I insult them, in which case I'm right. Okay, so the number one complaint I hear, fan service. Like what is and what isn't fan service?
Yeah.
And seriously, I could make a supercut of 4 hours of people I like and respect saying, and giving the medal to Chewie, that's just bad fan service. Or
people are not liking it, or I'm curious.
No.
Okay.
So this is it. The only people who are worse than the people who don't like it are the people who do like it. So people who don't like it just call it fan service and say it's absolutely cheesy, or they say that it's already been done in the comics, or they say like it's just fan service and no one cares, and it's a joke on the internet that Chewie didn't get a medal, and no one actually cares that he didn't get a medal. I'm just going to stay with that one indefinite article. I am a language teacher, Steve. A medal. That's the word they use. They say a medal. Okay. The people who are even worse are the people who clap like seals and cry and say they got hit in the Star Wars feels because they finally answered that plot hole of Chewbacca getting a medal. Chewbacca now has a medal, and isn't it great? It's not a medal, Steve. Do you know what's on either side of A in a medal? HN apostrophe S. It's Han's medal.
Yeah, right.
What the hell is wrong with you people? Leia's holding on to it the whole time.
Yeah,
this is the perfect answer. This is the answer that I didn't think would be like. I couldn't have predicted it. It's such a great story beat because the emotional core. It's actually feeling, not the feels. This is his best friend, and this is a reminder of the rebellion that they joined. And yes, to a degree, it's referencing the fact that he didn't get a medal. I'm not stupid. I know that's part of it.
Right.
But it works on two levels, and that second level is this emotionally beautiful thing where this character who really hasn't been treated that well in this series of movies, like he hasn't done that much. But this moment of him get to say like, well, I have this piece, he may not be the Falcon, he may not always be on the Falcon. He doesn't have all of his friends, but he has this firm reminder of his decision, of him being the conscience of Han Solo to tell him to go and fight in the rebellion. And he has it. So
yeah.
Anyways.
I figured that was going to be something that stirred you up a bit in that exact way, because it's just quick funny Chewbacca aside. I have a question for you.
Yes.
So a Christmas dinner, late Christmas dinner, we had like a delayed one with my mom and that side of the family the other night, and the odd Wookiee moan that happens in this movie came up. And everyone was arguing like what was the context and what was he like what was Chewbacca's state of mind in that moment? And my mom had an interesting take that no one at the table agreed with, which I thought was hilarious because that's
okay. Well, let's set
my
the
mom.
scene. So this is the part where they get caught in the Star Destroyer.
They're on the Star Destroyer. They're caught by the
and
troops.
Poe says, "Hey, fellas."
Yeah.
And then Chewie's like, "Oh,
what is that?"
Like, it's the first new Chewbacca sound since
that's right.
They've shot Ben Burt into space. I don't know where the hell Ben Burt's been, but that's the first new Wookiee sound since 2005.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of the only reading I took from it is like that's it, and it was funny to see different people in my family like projecting what they thought it meant or
okay. So what did your mom say?
My mom thought it was like a very standoffish like like you think you got me, but I'm like, Mom, no. Everyone was just like, no, Mom, that's an interesting take, but I don't think that's right.
I'm going with her. Who knows?
Yeah, I thought it was
that's
funny.
a good point. I noticed that, but I hadn't really thought that Chewbacca, forget getting a new medal, he gets a new sound.
He gets a new sound for the first time in however many, Yeah, I thought that was interesting. I'm just curious.
Now, yeah, I mean, I think he's just saying. Oh no,
he just resigned. That was
like
where the rest of the family came. I think he's just resigned.
No, that's Wookiee for oh snap. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, that's my mom's thing.
Yeah. But sorry, I'm like a little bit gassy. Remember that time when I used to like burp on mic when I was going through the divorce and I was going through that super dark time?
That
was rough, Steve.
A manifestation of a dark time. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, it was. If you're going back and listening to those, I apologize. I don't do that anymore. So, anyways, but getting back to Chewbacca, as far as the like interesting one time but not two times, when Chewbacca died, right?
Right.
So like I was there and I was in between my wife and my daughter, and I swear like they were so worried about me, and I had all these thoughts in my head. Like I thought I saw that there was another transport. I didn't immediately jump forward to remember that I'd seen scenes in the trailers that he wasn't. Like I didn't jump ahead to that, and it's possible they would have faked those. So the moment was completely ruined for me because I was entirely thinking about how distressed my wife and daughter were for me. So like I was trying to reassure them, and I wasn't really thinking. It was one of the most interesting moments in the history of cinema going for me, because like I just leaned over to my daughter and I'm like, it's just a movie. He's just a character. And then I leaned over to my wife and I'm like, he's not really dead. There's another transport, because I thought I saw another transport. But like they both looked at me like is he going to make it? Is he going to be okay?
Yeah.
And, if he did die right there, I still think he'd be on the winner's list. Like that would have been an interesting death. That would have been a shock. That would have been the Rian Johnson thing to do.
Yes.
Would have been to actually have Rey kill Chewbacca, because that would have had some major emotional weight. That would have been some real, like, can you ever forgive someone for killing Chewbacca?
Right. Yeah. No, you're spot on.
But that's sort of, the movie's both too brave and too cowardly at the same time.
Yeah. It's that happens a lot.
It does, especially in modern cinema. Just
yes, yeah.
But as a Chewbacca collector who's looking at all my Chewbacca things I got for Christmas, I'm quite happy with it. Yes,
pretty good. Yeah. All right. So was that it? That was you got.
That was it. So the 10 losers were all non-gonk droids. Dewbacks, Ewoks, Yoda, Lando, Emperor's Royal Guard, Vader, R2-D2, Anakin, and Luke. Mm-hmm. The top 10 winners were Gonk, Land of Jawas, Wicket, X-Wing TIE Fighter, Diecast Star Destroyer, C-3PO, Emperor, Han, Leia, Chewbacca.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got it.
So did you like it, Steve?
I did. I mean, I've liked it in, just like the other couple more as I've watched it. I've kind of come to terms with it. Like I can't, like, seeing any Star Wars movie for the first time is a very traumatic experience for me. It's the
worst.
It's the absolute worst. So I kind of like know going in, like, all right, this is gonna just be wiped from my conscience, and I'll I'll get used to it. And then if I end up liking it, great. If I don't, that's that. But no, I did. I'm happy that these movies exist. I'm really thankful that
Me
they
too.
do.
I'm very thankful for them. And that whole first watching thing too. Okay, I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent here.
Okay.
But we
All
might
right.
be part of the reason that things might be so bad is because of our binging culture.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like when Arrested Development came out, I watched it and recorded every episode and watched them 10 times. And same thing with The Simpsons. And, we're so up until 15 years ago, we were so used to getting installments in installments.
Right.
And when you don't get things, like I still haven't watched the fourth season of Arrested Development more than 5 times, which is crazy because I watched the first 3 seasons like 30 times because I was watching them when they came out. And so I just keep going over and over again and in between each episode. And even The Mandalorian, like I've watched most of those episodes multiple times.
Right. Yeah. Same here.
And it's an exciting way to do it. When you're used to the binging mentality, like that's why spoilers are so important now, because the things that matter are the one-time things. Like it matters if the dragon kills the elf in Lord of the Thrones or whatever, because like the first time you see it, it really impacts you and it means so much. And the second time it doesn't mean so much, but like we're just not training ourselves for like repeat viewings. And I think that Star Wars excels in repeat viewings, and probably the biggest failure of Rise of Skywalker is it doesn't have faith in repeat viewings.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
But I think it will be good in repeat. I know it's good in repeat viewings. I've liked it more each time. I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've only seen it 4 times. Well, 3.5. I had to go pick up my son in the middle of one. It was a whole custody thing. It was a nightmare.
Oh man. Oh my God.
I picked him up after he saw it with his mom, and then took him to the end of the showing that I was at. So he saw it 1.5 times in one night. It was pretty hardcore.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also just at the end of the movie, my kids were so psyched. Like they were so happy. They were just completely pumped.
Yeah.
And totally happy. And it does help with the kids. And my son is a very intelligent, very wise Star Wars fan who for some reason could not forgive Last Jedi for the Holdo maneuver. I worked with him I talked to him it was like I found drugs in his locker or whatever. I'm just like, son, I need to talk to you about being upset about this kind of plot point. You're smarter than this, and I need you to be smarter than this. So it became kind of like a rebellion thing where he would wait till the car was filled with people, and then he would start attacking the Holdo maneuver in Last Jedi because he knew he'd get me on it.
Yeah.
But this was a good example. The Holdo thing, having the Hobbit dude say that's 1 in a million. That's a great example of actually how J.J. Abrams does help Rian Johnson, because that's a line and you can forgive it and it's quick and it's over. And now you never have to worry about the Holdo maneuver again. Yeah,
I took my younger half brother to see it at the Arlington in Santa Barbara. He's 14, so he's very close in age to your son, and so
same age. Wow.
Yeah, same age. Yeah. And so we walked out, and I could just see he was having the time of his life. And he walked out like that was my favorite. I'm like, some things don't add up, but it's Star Wars, so they don't have to. And then he went about his day like happy and thinking about it and talking about it from there. So I mean, it's, you have to think about it as kind of their generation's Star Wars too, in a way.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and. Yeah, maybe this movie will be really underrated. Maybe this movie might be great, Steve. It might be. It might just have these. It might be kind of like the prequels, where it has these like very clear mistakes, but then the things that it does well are spectacular.
Yeah. That's the trajectory I kind of see it going. But I guess should we have a B-wing pilot coda? Quickly. Yeah. I do love that, I remember back when they started airing those trailers, you would post stuff circling all the B-Wings in every shot. And I think the 2 shots that feature them the most prominently were either trimmed down or just completely changed in the movie.
Were there any B-Wings in the movie? I didn't see them.
There was one really prominently when they first arrived on for the battle, and it immediately got blown away. So
Oh my god.
it was the perfect,
In that case, I make the B-wing pilot the number one winner because it is such a loser.
It's still
perfected the loser.
It has.
It's what we call shooting the moon. It managed to fail so spectacularly that it now wins. Awesome. Well, I'm going to try to edit this and get this up tonight, actually, if I can.
Oh, awesome.
I'm just going to put it out without images. I mean, you know what Star Wars looks like.
Yeah.
So
think you're
maybe not on
probably
YouTube
safe.
yet, but I'll try and do that. So let me get to that now, because if I can do that in half an hour, then we'll be all set.
Awesome.
All right, so then next month, the February episode will be our 10th anniversary. We'll be talking about the Low Gray and...
Yeah, we'll be wrapping up the 65 back season and hitting a 10-year anniversary all in one. It's going to be fun.
All right. Till Wampa Wampa.
Adios.
The new action figures from Kenner, early bird figures. Kenner.